While everyone was struggling to resist, low roars of wild beasts were heard from all directions. An endless stream of demons poured out from the darkness, and it seemed that they would never be killed. The first ones to collapse were the Iron Rank adventurers. Their overall quality was the worst, and even with the use of rotation combat, their physical strength quickly ran out. A ferocious hellhound saw the opportunity and pounced on an adventurer to the ground, with flames coming out of its mouth. This was its special skill, Fire Breath. The unlucky adventurer could do nothing but close his eyes and pray for good luck. After a few seconds, the expected pain of being burned by flames did not appear. He opened his eyes and saw a dark figure in front of him. Master Fifai, thank you for your help. The man in black armor wielded the giant sword, and every swing brought with it a terrifying momentum. All the demons in front of him were killed. How powerful he was. After Fei dealt with the enemy in front of him, he turned to look at the adventurer and said, I didn't think it through. The other members of the adventurer team also rushed over to check on their companions' injuries. The leader hurriedly said, Master Fifai, this is not your fault. It's our lack of strength. It's all right to be self-aware, Ibarua thought secretly, a guy who is too weak will indeed be a drag. Geglin roared proudly, don't just stand there, little one of ours. Muscle girl, I told you not to call me that. Ibarua usually doesn't mind it, but when she meets a man she likes, she is afraid that her young girl's figure will be disliked. After all, most men prefer mature women, and only a few with special fetishes will like her. Haha, why are you shy? Although Gagran was talking, he did not stop the actions in his hands, and the warhammer continued to hit the demon. Logis released a skill to support everyone, injecting magic power into the sword in her hand. She shouted, Dark Blade Super Crossbow Shockwave. The magic sword that was shining with starlight suddenly grew larger, and a series of explosions occurred at the demon in front of it. Fei praised, nice sword, and the moves are very cool. This second-year feeling reminded him of Ulbert, which was really nostalgic. Thank you for the compliment. This is the sword that the 12 heroic Dark Knights once carried, the magic sword Zilanirum. It is my most handy weapon. Logis smiled brightly. Even the name is so catchy, it's really cool. Ins thought so and praised her again, causing Logis to smile even more. Ibarua is full of a sense of crisis. In terms of strength, she is not inferior to Logis at all, so why not praise her? Crystal Knight Spear. The shining Knight Spear condensed and pierced through several demons in the blink of an eye. The powerful magic effect caused a commotion. He even used the 4th-tier magic at will. It turned out that this short magic caster was so strong. Fifai nodded, but did not praise her as she expected, which made Ibarua very depressed. Little did Ins know that he was also very surprised. Ibiru's strength was already stronger than some members of the maid group, and he couldn't let her run around to avoid accidentally hurting the children. Fei said in a heavy tone, the demons are endless, and the winner must be decided as soon as possible. Irabia nodded in agreement, Master Fifai, I know flying magic and can take you up with me for support. Let's take care of the big boss first. Although the imposter is very strong, if he is a real Silver Knight, the battle would have ended long ago. It turns out that we can't rely on him alone. This is a good idea, but if two powerful fighters leave, how can the people on the ground hold on? Master Fifai, you can go ahead and leave this to me. Great, it's Miss Clementine. The Holy Dragon God will protect you. Clementine, Momon's companion, caused a stir as soon as she arrived, not only because of her beautiful appearance, but also because of her powerful healing magic. If Fifai's nickname is the Dark Knight, Clementine also has her own title. Many people call her the Nameless Saint who believes in the Holy Dragon. Ibarua's heart was filled with alarm. Although this woman was not as beautiful as her temperament was the kind that all men liked. If Clementine were her rival, it would be very tricky. Master Fifai, time is urgent, let's get going quickly. Okay, let's not delay any further. Fifai turned to look at Logis, I'll leave this to you to command. You can rest assured about my companion. Her abilities will not disappoint you. Logis was flattered and agreed. Being entrusted with an important task, she also wanted to show her reliable and steady side. Ibarua shyly held out her hand, please hold it. Fifai took the hand without any burden. If possible, he really wanted to use the flying props, but that would mean he would have no reason to take Ibarua with him. At this time, the battle in the sky had entered a fierce stage. Shaltier's eyes were red with anger. It was really painful for the dropper spear to poke her body. Sig's human body could not bear it. Shaltier suddenly stopped and tilted her head in thought. Oh, it's Lord Ins, and there's a vampire. When Ins and Ibarua approached, Shaltier quickly noticed. Seeing this, Sig quickly reminded, Shaltier, don't forget your mission. Act more fiercely. Shaltier nodded seriously, okay, I understand. Two figures quickly approached, they were Fei and Ibarua. Sig's voice was cold, and he looked like an expert. What are you doing here? Ibarua spoke bluntly, you think I want to come? You are too slow to solve the problem. Master Fifai and I are here to provide support. The tone of their voice made it seem as if the two of them were really companions and had fought demons together before. Excluding the possibility that Miguel really has good acting skills, Sig feels that she is absolutely immersed in the role. Could it be that the Platinum Dragon King's personality is very similar to the way he pretends, and he is going to die like this? Sig found it very interesting and continued to pretend, I don't need anyone's help, just take care of yourselves. Fei advised, "Sir, it's not that we don't trust you, but the adventurers below are almost unable to hold on. One more person means more strength." Sig was completely merciless. "The enemy in front of me is very strong, I don't have the energy to protect the weak." Ibarua was so angry that her teeth were itching. How could he be more pretentious than herself? She was the real 13th hero and could not be called a weakling. Shaltier's sharp voice came, "Are you guys ignoring my existence?" Racial class suppression was very obvious among vampires, and Ibarua fell into a brief daze. When she came to her senses, Fei had already held her in his arms, and with his other hand he was waving his giant sword to block the continuous stabbing of the spear points. With this level of battle, Ibarua didn't know what was going on and just felt dazzled. So strong. Sig flashed over, raised his leg and swept it, taking the opportunity to launch a knockback skill, and Shaltier flew dozens of meters before she stabilized her body. "So I say that the weak are here to hold us back. Hey, we finally finished moving. It was such a big project." The swarm of insects carrying the money had just left, and Edoma waved goodbye with a sweet and cute voice. No wonder everyone liked to call her Insect Girl. Yuri, the eldest sister, came over and was pleased to see her capable younger sister. This child was much better than Nabe and Lupus Regina. Entima looked at the broken arm not far away. This was the troublemaker they had to deal with. She had been holding back and not saying anything before. Now that she had some free time, saliva couldn't help but flow from the corners of her mouth. "Sister, I want to eat some snacks." Yuri sighed. It turned out that she was hungry. Normally, she could only eat insects in the big tomb, so she indulged herself a little. "Eat quickly, don't waste time." After finishing her work, Ziza came over expressionlessly. "Sister, are humans delicious?" Entima swallowed the meat in her mouth and raised her hands in protest. "I am the older sister." Because her race is an automaton, Ziza's face has no second expression, but that doesn't mean she doesn't care. "I'm a sister." The two started arguing like elementary school students again. They had no idea who was the older sister, even though there was Suo Liak Siang between them. Ziza ranks 4th and Edoma is 6th. These are the numbers inherent in their names, which contain the wisdom of the Supreme Being. There is no need to refute them at all. "What's wrong? Speak of the devil." Here comes Suo Liak Siang, who walked over with a satisfied look on his face, and a suspicious blush on his face. Obviously he was full. As for how they hunt, Yuri, who has a high sense of justice, doesn't want to know and simply turns a blind eye. In this regard, Edoma is really a good boy. He eats people just for the sake of eating, not for anything else. Including the youngest sister Olail Omega, there are a total of 7 people in the Uzuki Star group. Only 4 of them participated in this operation, so they should be more cautious in their actions. The message came suddenly, and Yuri stood up straight immediately. "Sir Demiurge, the property has been moved. Do you have any other instructions?" The others also stopped fighting, concentrated and stood where they were. After listening to Demiurge's words, Yuri nodded seriously. "Yes, I understand." Yuri ended the communication and conveyed orders to her sisters. "Next, attack the humans, don't kill too many, and keep casualties to 5%. From now on, we are the Demon King's subordinates. The most important thing is not to accidentally hurt Sig-sama's servants. This is something that Demiurge-sama has emphasized. We must not make any mistakes." Several people responded in unison. "Yes. Sky battlefield. Here, flying props. This is a battlefield, not a place for a date." Sig threw a necklace with wings to Fei and said, "I advise you not to refuse. It's hard to show your strength with a burden." Sig's identity is mysterious, so it's not surprising that he took out such a precious prop. Fei grabbed the necklace and put it directly on her neck. "Thank you. I will return it to you after the battle. But Miss Ibarua is not a burden. Please take back what you said." Ins was anxious. "Sig-san, don't be so mean, don't chase people away." Sig raised his eyebrows, and immediately misunderstood. Could it be that they were attracted to each other? Then he would have to help them get together. "I admit that you are an excellent fighter, Fei. For your sake, I can take back what I said just now. Sir Silver Knight, I know you are very powerful, but Miss Ibarua is an excellent adventurer. Please show her enough respect. Please, stop talking. This is maintenance, the old tree is blooming." However, considering the ages of the two, it is hard to say who is older. Sig continued to play the role of the bad guy. "I only respect the strong. If you want an apology, then defeat the strong enemy in front of you first." That's exactly what I meant. Fei raised the giant sword, and the cloak behind him fluttered in the cold wind. Ibarua looked at the broad arms of the man in front of her and her heart was moved. She wanted to hide in his cloak and be protected. When Fei spoke for her, he had completely captured her. She was like a little girl who had just fallen in love, and her mind was filled with the image of this man. But she couldn't do that now. Ibarua despised herself for being cowardly. She couldn't be a burden in the mouth of the fake one. Ibarua said in a high-pitched voice, "Master Momon, the enemy is a vampire. We need special weapons." Fei was surprised. "It's a vampire." Ibarua said with some doubt, "But vampires actually lead demons. What a magical combination." Sig said, "As a matter of course, demons and vampires are both evil creatures, so it's normal for them to work together." Ibarua gritted her teeth in anger. This man was so despicable that he killed an entire race with one blow. As a vampire, she was known as a hero who destroyed a country. Sig suddenly changed the subject. his tone a little teasing. Besides, no one has ever said that this vampire is the mastermind. Maybe she is just a general under the devil. Demon King. Commanding tens of thousands of demons, it's not an exaggeration to call him the Demon King. That makes sense. Fei Fei nodded pretentiously. Sig's acting was really good. He reacted so quickly that he finally managed to smooth it over. Ibarua couldn't think of any rebuttal, so she just snorted. You have a really bad personality. I hate people like you the most. What are you talking about, you lowly ant? At some point, Shaltier appeared behind Ibarua, with the sharp tip of her spear piercing straight into her chest. Be careful. Fei Fei reacted quickly and put the giant sword between the two of them. The sword blade collided with the tip of the gun, making a loud bang. Ibarua's body was very light, and she was blown 100 meters away by the shock wave. At the critical moment, Sig grabbed her and gave her a protective skill to avoid secondary damage. That's terrible. Ibarua opened her eyes and saw the silver armor that protected her. For the first time, she did not call him a fake in her heart. Ahem, it turns out you're not that bad. Sig pretended not to hear. He didn't have time to care about anything else right now. Shaltier was about to lose control. After taking the stab from the divine weapon, cracks instantly appeared on Fei Fei's giant sword, and its durability dropped rapidly. There was a blood mist lingering around Shaltier, and a rotten and stench could be smelled from a long distance away. Family summon. Bats and wolves emerged from the darkness. Shaltier and her followers stared at Ibiro with their purpose obvious. They were going to tear her apart no matter what. If Shaltier really wanted to kill someone, Siggenins could indeed stop her together, but that would inevitably expose their true strength. If Ibarua knows too much, we cannot let her go easily. She must either be killed or accept the baptism of Nazarick and become one of ours. It was not the best option in any case. Sig regretted very much that he should not have agreed to Shaltier. Ins had the same idea. He was harming his friend's child. At this moment, a demon in a suit fell from the sky, with his wings spread and an iron mask covering his face. A mysterious man suddenly appeared on the battlefield and everyone's attention was focused on him. The demon's voice was cold. You are such a loser. You can't even do a small thing. Have you forgotten the real purpose of our attack on the kingdom? Ibarua's eyes widened. Who are you? It's Demiurge. Sig and Ins both felt that they were saved. This was just in time. My name is Jaldabaoth, Lord of Demons, Scarlet Knight. Why are you still standing there? Jaldabaoth is also the pseudonym that Zayadai gave himself in the original plot. It is indeed his style. The Scarlet Knight was naturally referring to Shaltier. After being stimulated by this, her eyes regained some clarity and she half knelt. Lord Jaldabaoth, I am sorry for my incompetence. Although it was Demiurge who was kneeling, Shaltier looked secretly at the two supreme beings present, her eyes full of fear. It's over, screwed. Jaldabaoth's body was burning with black flames, emitting an extremely dangerous and evil aura, even worse than the demon god that once ravaged the world. Although the Scarlet Knight is terrifying, he still lacks a lot of momentum. There is no doubt that the demon in front of him is the real mastermind behind the scenes. Ibarua said angrily, what on earth do you want to do? Why are you slaughtering so wantonly? Jaldabaoth spoke with contempt, I came here only to find the lost things. As for the massacre, it's just a small punishment for the lowly creatures who got their hands on the treasures. Sig said coldly, what an arrogant devil. Demiurge bowed slightly, his movements as elegant as a nobleman. Thank you for your recognition. This is a compliment to me. The extreme contrast makes Jaldabaoth's image even more mysterious, but there is no doubt that he is evil. Fei Fei said in a deep voice, in that case, if you find the lost treasure, will you leave immediately? Master Fei Fei. Ibarua was full of doubts, and his voice became very sharp. Now that the mastermind has appeared, they should work together to kill him instead of letting him go. Jaldabaoth chuckled. I was just about to leave. Although the kingdom is weak, it is still delicious as the first meal after waking up. Seeing such disregard for human life, Ibarua shouted angrily, you killed so many people, do you think you can just walk away? You burden, please consider the overall situation. Do you want to see your companions die because of your willfulness? Sig reminded. This kind of shouting is simply a temper tantrum, and he has completely lost the composure of a soldier. Ibarua was stunned, then looked around blankly. In the sky, Sig's armor was stained with blood, and Fei Fei's giant sword was shattered. Both of them were working hard to fight against the powerful enemy, but she was the only one who was useless. And on the ground are our companions who are fighting hard, protecting civilians with their blood. Although I hate to say it, if we continue fighting, the kingdom will be destroyed first. Ibarua lowered her head in shame. I'm sorry, I was reckless. Ins was secretly shocked. Sigsan always hit the nail on the head and got to the point, but his words were indeed a bit harsh. Hihi, I look forward to meeting you all next time. Demiurge snapped his fingers, and Shaltier understood what he meant and immediately opened the portal, and the two figures slowly disappeared. With the departure of the big boss, the demons in the city retreated like a tide, and the darkness that shrouded the kingdom's capital finally dissipated. The maids received the message to retreat and left with the demons. The adventurers didn't even bother to chase after the enemy, they felt it was good enough that they were able to survive. Many of them kept repeating words of gratitude for the holy dragon god's protection. Without Clementine's healing magic, the number of casualties would definitely increase greatly. Compared with her own life, faith is nothing. Seeing this, Clementine curled up the corners of her mouth slightly, revealing an ambiguous smile. Loggies.
Hey everyone, welcome to our channel, and thank you for your support. If there's a favorite novel on the channel and you want the next part, you're just one step away. Become a Patreon member and I can make it depending on your tier. Thank you for your attention.
Let out a long sigh. Her long golden hair was covered with dust and became much darker. The floating swords around her body were also worn out. This was the first time she looked so miserable since she became an adamantine-level adventurer. Captain, are you okay? The ninja twins walked over supporting each other. Tina and Tia also had injuries of varying degrees. Gaglin was still quite energetic. She came over and supported Loggies who was about to fall. I told you not to be so stubborn. Although Loggies was still very weak, a strange glow appeared on her face. We won. Gagran and the ninja twins looked at each other with helplessness on their faces. Their captain was still acting so recklessly. Yay, I won. Everyone looked up at the sky at the same time, and 3 figures fell from the sky. The first ray of sunlight in the early morning shone down, casting a layer of golden light on the 3 people. Everyone held their breath and waited quietly. Momon quipped, "It's time to declare victory, Sir Silver Knight." Sig snorted, maintaining his cold and arrogant image throughout. Boring, in my eyes this is not a victory, it's just not losing. You, don't pretend at a time like this. Don't keep Master Fifei waiting. Ibarua finally couldn't bear it anymore. She flew up, raised both of their hands and crossed them together. Sig and Ins were both stunned and looked at each other, feeling a little weird. Although it was just acting, it was also a long-lost opportunity to fight side by side. I really miss it. The adventurers raised their weapons, shouted loudly with joy, and fell into the carnival of victory. At this time, 6 arms had basically cleared out the enemies, except for Qian Shao who had been captured early in the morning. The Undead King, Phantom Demon, Blood Dance Scimitar, and Space Slash had all been defeated, leaving only the bald man called Fighting Ghost who was struggling to hold on. Daogui is the leader of the 6 arms and the chief of the 8 Fingers Security Department, so naturally he is stronger than the others. It would not be difficult for Brian to kill him, but he had received an order to keep the core members alive, so he spared his life. Klein was stunned. Brain's strength was beyond his understanding. He was too brave to fight against 6 arms alone. Looking back at myself, I only took care of a few minions, so I can't really say I was of any help. Daogui gave up struggling and knelt down to admit defeat. Brian, just kill me. For someone like him who has committed so many evil things, being caught is a torture. It would be better for him to die directly. The 8-Finger headquarters could not be contacted and there was a high possibility that it had been captured. He didn't know why a big shot like Brian would come here to kill him, but there was obviously no point in thinking too much. Brian put away the knife and said, "No, you should be tried alive. Lady Lana will give you the sentence you deserve." Daogui smiled bitterly. It turned out to be her. What a scary woman. Clime's face was filled with anger. He drew his sword and pointed it at Daogui. "Do not disrespect Princess Lana. Haha, the kingdom is still being attacked by demons, but she sent people to deal with us. Shouldn't we say she is terrible? Is removing the 8 fingers more important to her than the safety of the country?" Clem was very angry at what Daogui said. This was a complete slander. How could a criminal understand Princess Lana's good intentions? You. Okay, Clem, no need to argue with him. Brian knocked Daogui unconscious with a knife. "Listen, we have won the victory outside. We have also cleaned up and eliminated a major hidden danger of the kingdom. This is enough to prove that Princess Lana's decision was right." Clem listened attentively, and indeed, he heard the shouting. It can be heard even in the deepest alleys, which shows how loud the sound is. The sun is rising, and its gentle golden light is just like the beautiful and pure golden princess. Lana was sitting by the window at this time. She admired the ruined scene of the capital with a sick smile on her face. "It smells like blood. It seems that we are one step closer to the success of our plan." Outside the kingdom city, the sky is blue and clear. It is a rare good weather. Fifei and Clementine stand together, the combination of beauty and night. They look naturally a perfect match. Loggies quietly touched Ibarua beside her and encouraged her with her eyes. Ibarua secretly rebuked the captain for being nosy, but still asked, "Master Fifei, are you leaving?" This sentence is very strange. It is normal for adventurers to leave after completing their mission. Fifei's main activity place is Yellentire, which is his base. Feifei replied, "Yes." Ibarua was very disappointed. What a cold man. Was she dumped? Master Fifei. Clementine's face had a suspicious blush, and her eyes passed Kang Qiangui and looked behind them. The blonde middle-aged noble, Marquis Reven, came over with a smile, accompanied by a black-haired man. He was wearing a formal suit with his collar buttoned up. His whole body was wrapped tightly, but it did not affect his handsomeness at all. Although he is not a noble, his temperament is even more noble than Marquis Reven. Loggies said in surprise, "Sir Silver Knight, why are you here? This outfit suits your temperament very well." Although she wanted to say that she was really handsome, the aristocratic etiquette she had learned from elementary school still managed to keep her image as a lady. Sig replied calmly, "I am dressed in formal attire because I have an audience with the king. I am here to see him off." Calling the king directly is not a sign of respect. Most people would address him as Your Majesty. As the behind-the-scenes leader of the king's faction, Marquis Reven showed no displeasure at all, and a faint smile remained on his face. Lord Hrasvalgar has decided to stay in the kingdom for a long time. God knows how much effort he has put in to prevent the kingdom from collapsing. What else could he be dissatisfied about if he could win over a warrior more powerful than the warrior captain? If he had not borrowed his heroic identity, those nobles would have certainly tried their best to stop it, but this man was the Lord Silver Knight, so who would dare to raise any objections? A hero famous throughout the world is willing to protect the kingdom, which not only increases their prestige, but is also an honor for the kingdom. If anyone offended this big shot, he would be a sinner to the whole country, so no one dared to stand out. Marquis Revan looked at Momon with an apologetic look on his face. Lord Momon, His Majesty would like to see you as well. In terms of merit, the Silver Knight and Fifai are on par, but the kingdom's different treatment makes him worried that this powerful adventurer will be pushed to the opposite side. Fei waved her hand. It's okay. I don't care about reputation or fame. I just hope that all adventurers can be treated the same. Marquis Revan was amazed at the other party's indifference to fame and fortune. He took out the reward given by the king and handed it to the other party solemnly. Thank you very much for your efforts. Fifai did not refuse. After accepting the gift, she gave it to Clementine for safekeeping. Ibarua really wanted to stand up for Fifai, but Lagis had told her the pros and cons of the matter. Fifai is an adventurer who does not have noble status, while the Silver Knight is a hero. The nobles are more arrogant and will definitely recognize the latter more. They would rather praise the Silver Knight lavishly and deliberately ignore the adventurer Fifai and marginalize him. Ibarua said with a little resentment, Are you really here to see me off? Of course, I admire Fifai very much. Sig raised the corners of his mouth slightly and smiled for the first time. Lagis felt her cheeks getting hot. She didn't think she was a beauty, so how could her heart flutter so fast just because of a smile? Fei's voice also tinged with smile. It is my honor to be recognized by a hero. My real name is Sigris Hrasvorg. People who know me call me Sig. Mr. Sig, nice to meet you. Seeing the two of them being as familiar with each other as friends, Ibarua felt jealous and she also wanted to have such a relationship with Fifai. Fifai's figure was getting farther and farther away, and this idea was doomed to fail. But Sig said, Ms. Ibarua, don't you like Fifai? Why don't you pursue her? Hey. Ibarua made a sharp sound. How did you know? Sig shook his head helplessly. It seemed that the two of them were still a long way from being able to communicate with each other. The great tomb of Nazarick, the bedroom of the Supreme Being. Ins lay down on the soft bed without any image, and sighed comfortably. It is indeed more comfortable to stay in my own room. Yeah, I can finally take a break. Sig transformed into a half-dragon form, leaning leisurely on the sofa, and throwing crystal-clear grapes into his mouth one by one. He stretched himself and grunted twice. This is the sound that dragon people make when they are in a comfortable state. It is a racial characteristic and is not something to be ashamed of. The slacking old bones and the fat guy fat dragon, these two guys are in this state right now. He was a hero who saved the kingdom not long ago, but now he looks like this. If the NPCs saw the Supreme Being like this in private, they would definitely suspect that they were hallucinating. Ins rolled over and said, Speaking of which, Sig-san, I feel like I stole your limelight this time. Sig waved his hand. It's okay, we are all brothers. Will it affect the plan? Ins was a little worried, feeling that things were going beyond his expectations. Sig touched his chin and felt that it was not a big problem. The process was a little different, but the result was good. But in order to reassure Ins, he said, I will ask Xiaode privately. He has considered it more thoroughly. Little D, you have a nice nickname for Demiurge. Everyone says that, but that's not right. Sig suddenly changed his tone. Albert-san and I called him that privately because I didn't remember such a long name at first. Ins nodded, believing what he said. Then I'll leave it to you. Ins sighed, not knowing what he was thinking about. Sig asked caringly, What's wrong? Is there anything bothering the president? The two hadn't talked for a long time, so Ins suddenly opened up. To be honest, I don't dare to have in-depth exchanges with the floor ruler. After all, as you know, Sig-san, I was just a small clerk before, and suddenly became a ruler. The change in status is too big. Many times I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to do it well. If I still had hair, I would have probably gone bald. In this situation, Sig has no way to comfort her, and just needs to be a qualified listener. If Sig were to rule such a large group of people, he would definitely be very worried. How could he be so leisurely like he is now? Ins has really endured a lot. Sig-san, I have something to tell you, don't be angry. Sig looked nonchalant. Why should I be angry? Tell me. Forget it, I won't say anything. Ins was about to say something, but stopped himself. It seemed like there was something really hard to talk about. Sig's curiosity was aroused, and he couldn't hold back any longer. Hurry up and tell me, don't waste time. Okay, I told you not to be angry. Ins folded his hands weakly. Can you have a baby with albedo soon? What? With a child to take care of, everyone's attention will definitely be divided, and they won't stare at me all day, so I can relax a little bit. Sig's face turned red. He finally understood why Ins hesitated to speak. He felt sorry for the other party. It turned out that he was waiting for him. You'd rather die than let your friend die, right? How can I have a child? Ins' unchanging skull face actually turned red. Sig-san, why are you asking me this? It's so embarrassing. Sig was so angry that he laughed. You are still shy. I haven't asked you about that little loli. Her name is Ibarua, right? Why? The throne room at the bottom of Nazarick. After the task is completed perfectly, it is time to reward people based on their achievements. This is what a qualified leader should do. Ins held the staff of Ins Owl in his hand and sat on the throne like a king. Standing next to him was Sig, who was equipped with the artifact dragon scale black armor. He was not equipped with head armor and stood there with a smile on his face. Lord Ins is a skeleton undead, and it is difficult to judge his mood through his expression. This is certainly in line with his identity as the supreme ruler, the mysterious, powerful and omnipotent supreme being. But for most members of Nazarick, they long to understand the feelings of the Supreme Lord and fulfill their duties as slaves accordingly. This is a contradictory mentality, wanting not to see through something, but also wanting to understand it. The appearance of Lord Sig eliminates this problem. He is the Supreme Being and he can represent the Supreme Being. The Supreme Lord was so formal, and the floor guardians and other high-level NPCs also came as promised, and even Sebastian, who was far away in the Dragon Kingdom, came back. In order to allow Sig time to participate in this conference, Pandora, Nabe, and Lupus Regina are still on missions in the Empire, and their rewards will be awarded separately. The other NPCs were extremely envious. It was a real honor to be able to share the worries of the Supreme Being. Looking around, the spacious throne room was almost full. This was the first time a meeting of this scale was held. Everyone held their breath, ready to listen to the will of the Supreme Being. Ins glanced at Sig, as if he wanted to gain strength from him. Sig didn't want to pay any attention to him. This guy's mind was full of nonsense and he should be left alone. But he couldn't lose face in front of the army under his command, so he nodded slightly and responded briefly. At times like these, Ins always felt the benefit of having companions around him. All he needed was their silent support, and he would feel more at ease. If he were left here alone and had to lead subordinates who were much better than himself, he would probably collapse mentally sooner or later. First of all, the kingdom attack plan was a success, and I want to thank everyone for their efforts. It was an ordinary opening, but the sounds and movements had been calculated long ago. Ins had practiced it many times, trying to make it as foolproof as possible. The legions under his command gazed at the two supreme beings with blazing eyes of respect and admiration. What an exciting moment it was. Receiving such a response, Ins's confidence grew greatly, and he felt like he was finally acting like a true ruler. Sig-san, did you see that? Sig yawned secretly, not knowing what was going on. He felt sleepy just standing there. After the opening remarks, it was time to reward those who had participated in the attack plan, including Shaltier. Shaltier stepped forward tremblingly. Lord Ins, I do not need a reward. Look up, Shaltier. Ins's majestic voice rang out. Shaltier could not refuse and slowly raised her head. Ins-sama. Her red eyes were still swollen as if she had just cried, and her fingers were nervously twisting her clothes. Facing such a Shaltier, Ins really couldn't say anything harsh about her. As the saying goes, even if she has no credit, she has worked hard. It's too pitiful to be punished even though she has done something. Don't worry too much. I don't mean to blame you. As a master, I will reward and punish clearly. But, Demiurge frowned slightly. Shaltier, are you going to question Ins-sama's decision? Albedo's voice was powerful. Master, please show me mercy. As a servant, I should kneel down and thank you. That's right. The eyes of the other floor guardians were also focused on Shaltier, with some expressing worry and some expressing disappointment. Shaltier bit her lip lightly. I want to be punished. Since I have XP for masochism, this is a reward. Ins stood there in shock. How many strange settings did Pararon Sino make for Shaltier? This is really amazing. Sig was watching the excitement. Ins coughed lightly. By the way, Sig-san, you will be the one to carry out Shaltier's punishment. How can this be? Albedo screamed in dissatisfaction, losing all her composure. She then realized that this was a meeting, and immediately knelt down to ask for forgiveness. Ins still felt a little guilty about making such a decision. He waved his hand and said, it's okay. Sig's mouth twitched. It turned out that brothers were meant to be betrayed. However, Shaltier's rampage was also due to him, so it made sense for him to be responsible. Leave it to me. Albedo's eyes were filled with resentment, and a dark aura emanated from her entire body. Sig suddenly felt a lot of pressure. Why did he feel like he was caught by his wife? He really didn't want to do anything to Shaltier. Shaltier's face was flushed with embarrassment, and she had no objection to this decision at all. The matter of Shaltier was thus revealed, and next came the second phase of the conference, which was to announce the future development direction of Nazarick. The matter had already been discussed among the Supreme Beings, the news had spread among the Floor Guardians, and most of the Great Tomb must have known about it, but it still lacked a formal announcement. Demiurge, please explain it to everyone. Xiaode was meticulous, and Ins was always afraid that he would let something slip, so he gave the other party the right to explain, so that there would be no mistakes. Sig also agreed to do this. After all, they are just ordinary people, and Xiaode is still the smartest one. Yes, sir. Demiurge wagged his tail happily. He had been preparing for this moment for a long time. This was the beginning of his hegemony. Through this attack, the dark side of the kingdom has been mastered by Nazarick. Lord Sig has successfully infiltrated the upper echelons of the kingdom. Momon's reputation among the common people has further increased. The kingdom is now in our pocket. The kingdom will be the first step for Nazarick to conquer the world. No one should have any objection to this. The throne room was filled with exclamations. They were not surprised, but just admiring how farsighted this was. The world finally returns to Nazarick. Long live the Supreme One? Inns looked at this scene, which looked like a cult gathering, and couldn't help but feel a little guilty. If his companions knew that he had run Nazarick like this, would they come and beat him? But the ready-made companions are here, and Sig seems to agree with conquering the world, which means he is not doing anything wrong. Demiurge cleared his throat to stop the noise. My proposal for Nazarick to establish a nation is to announce our existence to the world. Albedo nodded slightly. If we present ourselves as a country, many things will become legitimate, and we can also send out personnel in a fair and justifiable manner. The two most intelligent people in Nazarick had the same opinion, so there was no reason for Inns and Sig to disagree. Sig chuckled. Perhaps we should choose a name that is easier to remember. Nazarick seems strange to be used as a country name. Inns was slightly surprised. Sig-san, do you have any good suggestions? Sig did not answer directly, but threw the question out. Cocytus, you tell me. Cocytus didn't know how to express his current feelings. He felt both terrified and lucky that such an important matter fell on him. Inns nodded in agreement. The name of their guild was given by Takehito Takemikaze, and as his child, Cocytus would probably inherit some of his talents. Cocytus thought for a moment, exhaled a breath of cold air, and uttered that extremely classic name, Magic Kingdom. Sig adults. Shaltier's voice could be heard clearly even through the door, and many ordinary maids who passed by would stop to listen with meaningful smiles on their faces. Nazarick is going to have a young master, said the short-haired maid. Fuel, please don't say that. The person who answered her was a long-haired maid wearing glasses, her every move exuding intellectual beauty. Lumiere, you are too cautious. This is a good thing. Fully smiled happily. She turned to ask another companion, what do you think, Sisu? Ziso was a little silly. She pointed at herself and said, me? This should be considered a good thing. Really, Sisu, are you listening to us? The three of them were very good friends, often getting together and occasionally playing around like they were doing now. As long as it wasn't during working hours, this level of relaxation was completely harmless. Nazarick's management system was very friendly, just like the benevolent Supreme. As they were walking, a gust of cold air blew in their faces, and the three of them hurriedly saluted respectfully. Lord Cocytus. Floor Guardians have the highest status among all NPCs. They possess great strength and their work is more arduous, so it is only natural to show them respect. Cocytus raised his hand, motioning for the others to get up. You should have passed by Lord Sig's room. The three of them replied in unison, yes. Cassette was delighted and continued to ask, I am going to meet Lord Sig. Is he still there? The three of them looked at each other, and Lumiere, the most stable one, stepped forward. Yes, but Lord Sig may not have time to see you. Lady Shaltier is inside. My words weren't very cryptic, so Lord Cocytus should be able to understand. I hope he won't be angry about it. Ordinary maids did not have frequent contact with floor guardians, and their knowledge of them was limited to rumors. In addition, Cocytus's appearance was a bit scary, so they were worried about being taken out on. Hearing this, Cocytus did not show any displeasure. Instead, he exhaled heavily, and his voice became obviously cheerful. It seems that Nazarick will soon have a young master. Speaking of the young master, the floor guardian seemed like a different person, and the coldness around him dissipated a little. The three of them watched Cocytus leave and breathed a sigh of relief. Full patted her chest and smiled. See, I was right, even Lord Cocytus thinks so. Lumiere was a little worried. I think Lady Albedo will be unhappy. They all saw how much Albedo loved Lord Sig, so the maids naturally stood on her side. But Lady Shaltier has many supporters, so I wonder who will succeed in taking the throne. Ziso said something shocking. Why not just take them all into the harem? Lord Sig will definitely be able to take good care of you too. The Supreme One needs to have many children. Foyer and Lumiere looked at each other and tacitly changed the topic of discussion to the question of who would be the first wife. Okay, that's it. Shaltier looked confused. Master Sig. Sig sighed. If he continued like this, his reputation would be ruined, although it might have already been lost. He had cursed Peroroncino hundreds of times in his heart. This guy was truly a talent. Alright, Shaltier. Shaltier turned off skills such as immunity and resistance. Although the injuries could be recovered quickly, the pain was real. Seeing the warm hand right in front of her, Shaltier took the initiative to stick to it. Lord Sig, you are so perfect. The cold and delicate skin was like a piece of cool jade. Sig's face turned red. Just as he was about to pull his hand back, there was a loud knock on the door. Master Sig, are you still busy? Sig stood up suddenly. That voice is Albedo. There was a flash of resentment in Shaltier's eyes. This violent gorilla must have come to cause trouble on purpose. He was so close to succeeding. Sig helped Shaltier up and tidied her appearance before nodding with satisfaction. The movements are so gentle. Lord Sig is indeed a good man. Although I don't know how this good man came to this conclusion, women who fall in love are just so blind. Shaltier's eyes were watery, like shining rubies, and her voice was sweet. Lord Sig, can you give me a kiss? Sig burst out laughing. He didn't expect Shaltier still remembered this. She was quite cute. But considering that Albedo was still waiting outside, he could only politely decline. If I can see your reflection next time, I will agree to one of your requests, of course, within my ability. Shaltier's eyes flashed with disappointment, but it was worth it to get such a promise. Yes, Master Sig. The door to the room opened, and Shaltier walked out, holding up her skirt. When she saw Albedo, she snorted, "Come in quickly, Aarons." Albedo was on the verge of exploding. Her eyes were stern. "This is a punishment from Lord Sig. Don't really think of it as a reward. Reflect on your own negligence." When this matter was mentioned, Shaltier had no way of refutation. She secretly vowed, "I will work hard to reflect on myself and impress Sig-sama." As soon as she stepped into the room, Albedo smelled the sweet scent belonging to Shaltier, which made her frown deeply. It needed to be cleaned and covered with her scent. Sig smiled at her serious look. "What's wrong? Lord Sig, are you leaving soon?" Albedo's voice was gentle, with obvious disappointment on her face. Sig nodded. "For the greater good, this is necessary." Albedo's behavior made Sig feel very uncomfortable. He felt that he had let down a good woman. "Lord Sig, can you give me a unique gift?" Albedo suddenly mustered up the courage to ask. The room fell into silence, and just when Albedo was about to apologize for her rude behavior, Sig flashed in front of her. Albedo's kissing skills were not very good. She only looked strong, but actually had no experience at all, and she was quickly defeated. Soon the two of them moved and lay on the soft big bed. Albedo was a little stunned. She couldn't believe that her wish had come true. "Lord Sig, don't be afraid, Albedo." Sig felt like he was really a scumbag. The next 1,000 words are omitted. Imperial Arena, VIP Lounge. "Lady Pandora, you made too much noise," Nabe said seriously. Pandora is still wearing Eli's clothes, but her face has returned to being as bald as a boiled egg. This is the original appearance of the double phantom. Nabe, who is also a double phantom, is also like this. "Since I'm using Lord Sig's identity, I can't lose face." Pandora's tone is sonorous and powerful, coupled with exaggerated body movements. It feels like she is giving a speech, and it is very contagious. This was true, and Nabe had no reason to refute it, but she was not convinced by Pandora. In fact, Pandora's style was so flamboyant that Nabe's respect for him dropped to an all-time low. Her voice was slightly cold. "I have already contacted Nazarick. Lord Sig will be here soon. You must be ready to receive him." Pandora became serious and straightened her back. "Ah, is Lord Sig coming soon?" Lupus Regina stuck out her tongue and licked her lips, looking very regretful. "Yeah, I heard that the kingdom has finished it, and I wanted to participate too." She really liked seeing the despair in the eyes of the ants. Inflicting sadism was a wonderful feeling, and she and Suo Liak Siang had a lot to talk about this. Nabe treated her sister the same way. "Don't doubt the decision of the Supreme Being." Lupus Regina came over and gave Nabe a shoulder massage with a smile. Sorry, I was just kidding." Although they are sisters, Lupus Regina and Nabe have very different personalities. One is frivolous and the other is serious, but their relationship is actually quite good. Nabii received the message and suddenly said seriously, "Here I come." The portal opened and the three immediately knelt down. "We are honored to meet you, Lord Sig." Sig, dressed as Eli, came out first. The aura of the Supreme Being could not be faked. Immediately following was a pure white figure, following closely behind. The gentle smile, the ladylike temperament, and the appearance of an angel goddess, is none other than Albedo, the Grand Chamberlain of Nazarick. No need to be so polite. Yes. Sig sat on the soft sofa, with Albedo standing beside him. The atmosphere between the two was very strange, as if they were deliberately avoiding something. Sig broke the silence. "Ahem, Albedo, you should sit down too." "As you command, Lord Sig." Albedo showed surprise, and her golden pupils suddenly lit up. Sig only felt the sofa beside him sink slightly, and a faint fragrance came to his nose, which was Albedo's body fragrance. It seemed like we were too close, but it felt good. Sig took the initiative to hook Albedo's little finger and rubbed it gently twice. Albedo's face suddenly turned red, and she twisted her body twice, trying to turn her head to the side so as not to embarrass herself in front of her subordinates. Lupus Regina was very perceptive and said with a smile, "Master Sig, Master Pandora is trying hard to play Eli." Sig nodded. "Pandora, thank you for your hard work again this time. Return to your original form. When it comes to transformation, no one is better than Pandora." He changed back into the yellow military uniform in the blink of an eye. Pandora kicked her legs in a standard military posture. "Ah, it's my honor to share Lord Sig's worries." It seems that after inswarning, Pandora has changed her habit of saluting and speaking German, and she looks much better than before. When Sig first created Pandora, he actually wanted to remind Flying Squirrel not to make it too exaggerated, as it would easily become a dark history. Momonga was only concerned with looking handsome. He kept showing off his handsome military uniform and even imported it into the German dictionary. Sig didn't feel like criticizing him. I guess Faisha didn't expect that his momentary negligence at that time would directly lead to the birth of the devil child. Sig turned and asked, "Nabe, come and report the situation." In fact, Pandora should have been the one to report, but Nabe was obviously more reliable. "Yes." Nabe stepped forward and recounted in detail what Pandora had been doing over the past few days, including defeating the Martial King, refusing the title of Martial King, and remaining active in the arena, maintaining her winning streak. This attracted the Blood Emperor so much that he rewarded him with the right to live in the VIP room for a long time, which is the room he is in now. Pandora was very gentlemanly. "Thank you, beautiful lady, for speaking for me." Nabe's eyes turned cold. "Please don't call me miss." Albedo was also very dissatisfied with this frivolous guy. Nabe is a member of the Pleiades, not a lady. Pandora, you must be careful with your words. I know. Pandora kicked again. Sig held his forehead helplessly. It was useless to say anything now. After all, it was he who asked Pandora to come. It was his own fault. I see. It seems that Eli's name has become famous in the Empire. Yes, Lord Sig. Lupus Regina looked like she was enjoying the fun. Now, whenever I go out, everyone will greet me. Nabe nodded, agreeing with this statement. Because she is too famous, we can't entirely blame Pandora for acting so high profile. It's probably what the Blood Emperor did on purpose. The kingdom has attracted powerful silver knights, and the Empire should also have powerful people to match them. It is not surprising that Eli was nominated. The Empire is different from the kingdom. As an emperor, the Blood Emperor is more talented than the king of the kingdom. He purged incompetent nobles, implemented policies that benefited the people, and promoted a large number of commoners, looking only at their abilities and not their backgrounds. Even though Eli was just a new worker with a very low status in the Empire, he would not hesitate to win him over as long as he demonstrated strong strength. The Silian theocracy helped the Empire attack the kingdom because they believed that the Empire had a better future, which was inseparable from the efforts of the Blood Emperor. Pandora asked, Lord Sig, is there anything else you want me to do? Sig shook his head. Pandora, you should go back to Nazarick to report. I will send a low-level double phantom to the kingdom to act as the Silver Knight. Your fighting power cannot be wasted on such a trivial matter. Yes, sir. Pandora is a heavy addict for magic items. She feels uncomfortable if she doesn't touch them for a day. She must have accumulated a lot of pressure during this period. As a considerate leader, Sig naturally takes good care of his subordinates, not to mention that this guy is In's child. Pandora, you have completed your mission very well. I will reward you with some rare magic items. Pandora was about to refuse when Sig interrupted her. Although it is a rare magic item, it is only collectible and has average effects. It is not a precious item. Since the Supreme One said so, Pandora happily agreed. Thank you, Lord Sig, for letting me go with such a heavy heart. Sig gave Albedo a ring with a black dragon scale ring and a red dragon's eye stone on the ring face. Albedo, I will give you access to your private warehouse. You can choose Pandora's rewards. Albedo's face turned red. Is this a proposal? Albedo, no, don't misunderstand me. But it was obvious that Albedo could no longer listen. She pounced over and pressed Sig down on the sofa, flapping her black wings rapidly. Lord Sig, I do. Lupus Regina and Nabe acted as the atmosphere group, and Pandora even chanted the German version of the prayer. Sig really wanted to cry but had no tears. He felt like he was being forced. Whose supreme being could be so miserable? Albedo, do you understand what I mean? As you command, my beloved Sig. Albedo caressed the ring on her ring finger with care, the corners of her mouth raised exaggeratedly, looking like a nympho. Sig was too lazy to correct the address. Albedo's previous behavior was really too fanatical. If it were just the two of them, there was no telling what would happen. Nabe and Lupus Regina come forward. Is there any reward you would like? They both stepped forward and knelt on the ground again. With the precedent of Pandora, the two agreed that refusal might displease the Supreme Being, and acceptance would be the wisest option. Lupus Regina said, I hope to obtain some humans to use as toys. Sig replied, Demiurge's ranch has captured many humans. I will tell him to prepare some suitable humans for you. Also, you have worked hard during this period, so I will give you a vacation. Lupus Regina was panicked for a moment. I don't need a vacation. It is an honor to serve Sig-sama. Everyone needs a break. I gave Pandora a break, so I won't show favoritism. The same goes for you, Nabe. Sig was firm in his attitude, and Lupus Regina and Nabe had no room to refuse, but they didn't want to rest for too long. A few days was too luxurious. Working for such a long time and only having one day off is even more excessive than that of big capitalists. It is totally exploitative. Even though Sig knew that the NPCs of Nazarick were not designed with rest in mind, he still felt a little uncomfortable. Lord Sig, we see your kindness, but we cannot fully accept it. Sig finally set the time to one day, and the two agreed. Nabe, you haven't told me what you want yet. Nebeka was in a slump. She had no other hobbies except chatting. Sig's request for leave to return to Nazarick was already a reward. She couldn't think of anything else she wanted. What's wrong? As time passed, Nabe became more and more nervous. It would be very rude not to reply to the Supreme Being. I want to learn how to blend in more naturally with humans. This is a simple yet complex request. Nabe's inability to remember people's names and faces is indeed a big problem, and sometimes she lets things slip, but generally it's harmless because she is an inflexible maid. Sig joked, this reward is a little difficult. I'm sorry to trouble you. Albedo chuckled, Lord Sig, I have collected some books from the human world, which would be perfect as a reward. Albedo, how can I let you take out your collection? Albedo placed her delicate hand on her chest, her expression serious and her voice firm. After all, it is a wife's responsibility to share her husband's worries. Although Albedo had always regarded herself as Sig's wife, Sig was still greatly shocked when she said such words to his face. Although they have had physical contact, they are still in the stage of dating and it is too early to talk about marriage. Sig decided to ask for her opinion. Nabe, are you willing to accept it? I am willing. Nabe nodded. Sig felt that his question was unnecessary, as most of the maids were supporters of Albedo. The portal opened again, and Pandora, Lupus Regina, and Nabe left one after another. Albedo stayed until the end. Now that they have all left, I will serve them. How can the Supreme Being be without attendance? This is absolutely not allowed. Sig smiled helplessly, feeling like he had fallen into a trap. No wonder Albedo hadn't raised any objections before. Who will handle the affairs of Nazarick? My chief steward. Albedo had naturally made all the arrangements. Thinking of what was going to happen next, the wings on her waist trembled even more violently. I've handed it over to Yuri. Demiurge will assist. Sig had no reason to refuse. Strictly speaking, this was the period of passionate love, and it was okay to indulge a little, but he didn't know if his waist could withstand it. Time passed quickly and a day went by in a flash. No one knew what happened. Albedo was only seen smiling happily and Shaltier got angry when she heard about it. But Sig doesn't know any of this, he's busy playing Eli now. Sir Eli, do you have time now? Roan Van Malayan knocked on the door carefully. As the Empire's secretary, Roan represents the Blood Emperor's opinion. He is so respectful and cautious to show His Majesty's importance to Eli. About a minute passed, and Lupus Regina came to open the door. She smiled and said, "Come in." Roan had to admit that every time he saw Lord Eli's teammates, he would sigh in his heart at their looks. Even though he was knowledgeable and experienced, he had never seen such beautiful women, each with her own unique characteristics. "Sir Eli, His Majesty invites you." Eli stood up. His movements were very graceful and calm, with some dignity of a superior. "Your Majesty, what do you want to see me about?" Roan replied unconsciously, "A distinguished guest has arrived." After he finished speaking, Roan finally reacted and was secretly annoyed at why he said it so directly. As an elite of the Empire, he should not make such a low-level mistake. Eli seemed to laugh, and said in a warm voice, "Dear guest? It seems I need to go there in person. Please lead the way." Roan breathed a sigh of relief and felt much more relaxed. "Please follow me, but I'll trouble your two companions to wait here for a while." The Blood Emperor made it clear that the only person he wanted to see was Eli, and even people from the same team could not come together. Sig had no objection to this, but he secretly winked at the two of them, telling them not to let their guard down. Lupus Regina and Nabe understood what he meant and stayed in the room obediently. Led by Roan, the two stopped at the door of an ultra-luxurious private room. This is a room exclusively for the Blood Emperor. It has a huge terrace overlooking the entire arena. Everything in the arena can be seen, and the people can also admire the heroic figure of His Majesty the Emperor. Roan knocked on the door a few times and said, "Your Majesty, the person has been brought here." "Oh, come in." Gilnef, the emperor of a country, came to greet him personally with a warm smile on his face. Following behind him were still the two most trusted knights of the Empire, Lightning and Wind. "Sir Eli, let me introduce today's distinguished guest." "Well, I'm Eli from the worker team Dragonslayer. The blonde young man nodded slightly and greeted with a smile, "I am Quintus Hacia Quintia, nice to meet you. The 5th-ranked one-man division of the Black Scripture, and also a spy planted by Nazarick." Because of his control over magic, Quinn Eyes recognized the person in front of him at first sight. He was the master who possessed power comparable to that of a god. "Xiaoquei, what's wrong with you?" The person who spoke was a female magician wearing a huge hat and disheveled and revealing clothes, giving people a very lazy feeling. The 11th seed of the Black Scripture is infinite magic power. The muscular man holding a giant shield remained silent. He was the 8th in the Black Scripture, giant shield 10,000 arms. He had participated in protecting world-class props. Seeing Eli's outstretched hand, Quinn Eyes quickly shook it back, beads of sweat the size of beans sliding down his forehead. After the handshake, the atmosphere was very harmonious. But Sig suddenly said, "I have a question. If everyone wants to be honest, why don't some people show up?" Upon hearing this, not only did the people from the Black Scripture change their expressions, but even the Blood Emperor showed a look of surprise, and Lightning and Wind immediately protected him. A man in a red tights appeared, a professional assassin, the 12th seat of the Black Scripture, Tensheng Tianjian. From then on, the true identities of the 4 members of the Dark Scripture were revealed. "I'm sorry, my companion meant no harm." Quinn Eyes explained calmly, "If we really want to kill someone, we don't have to go through so much trouble. Your Majesty and Lord Eli, please rest assured." Although he was apologizing, his attitude was not sincere. Considering that the other side is from the theocracy and their strongest army, the Black Scripture, they do have the capital to be arrogant. Even if the Blood Emperor is unhappy, he cannot get angry. He waved his hand to let his knights retreat, smiling and acting very magnanimous. "It's all right. I trust you all. In order to make the Empire more prosperous, it is necessary to leave a good impression on the theocracy so that it can gain benefits from it. Losing face is just a small matter, and an emperor should be aware of this. Sir Eli, I am willing to guarantee this. Please sit down and have a good talk." The Blood Emperor was a little nervous. Although he had already recruited Eli under his command, he didn't know much about him after all, and there were many guys who were powerful but had low emotional intelligence. If Eli insisted on pursuing the matter, it would make it very difficult for him as the middleman. Eli nodded. "I just don't like people who hide their true intentions. Now that everyone has spoken openly, I won't hold on to it." Tianxing Tianxia suddenly asked, "Your detection skills are very powerful. Do you also have an assassination profession?" Even abnormal people who have surpassed the heroic realm would find it difficult to sense his presence, but this 5th level magic caster could actually see it at a glance. Eli spoke truthfully, I don't have a career in exploration. If I had to explain why, it's mainly because of my natural abilities. Tianxia nodded, then shut up and said no more. He was indeed panicked just now and even spoke without thinking. If it is a natural supernatural power, then it is indeed possible. After all, he has seen more powerful ones, and no matter what, they are not as good as that godlike person. Infinite magic power noticed the uneasiness of Tianxia and teased, don't worry, we are here to recruit. It would be terrible if we became enemies. Recruit? Sig grasped the key point of the words. He didn't expect that this identity was so famous that it was noticed by the church. Tianxia didn't say anything, which was tantamount to tacitly acknowledging that he really didn't want to become an opponent of Eli, which would make him very uncomfortable. Quinn Eye smiled and said, everyone, let's sit down and talk. Jerkniv clapped his hands, and immediately a beautiful maid brought fruits and snacks, showing the hospitality of the host. The two parties finally sat down, or to be more precise, the three parties. Eli was a man of the Blood Emperor on the surface, but he really represented the great tomb of Nazarick. Quinn Eyes got straight to the point. I heard that you have fought against the Silver Knight. Can I ask you something? Sig realized that his original identity must have been suspected by the church, and he might even have been confirmed to be a god. He had considered this issue when he let the captain of the Black Scripture go. The church's response was quite quick, and it immediately sent out its strongest force to investigate. Is it because of this again? I didn't expect that just a fight would make me so famous. Sig deliberately acted a little distressed. What do you want to ask? Quinn Eyes was originally very uneasy, afraid that he would not be able to communicate well, so he deliberately revealed many details, but now he is shocked by his master's acting skills. This is a completely different person. Appearance and strength, we would appreciate more details. I don't need to say much to express my gratitude. It's just a small thing. Sig looked thoughtful. He wears silver blue armor, has a strong personality, and is much stronger than me. Why did you guys get into a fight? Are you looking for revenge? Sig sighed, it was indeed revenge, but I wasn't looking for him, he was looking for me. Everyone was very surprised to hear this. Eli didn't seem like the type to provoke enemies, it looked like the other party was looking for trouble. Strictly speaking, it was my fault. The other party came to my house just to teach me a lesson. Sig then simply repeated what he had said to the guild leader in Zach, explaining the whole story. The people from the Black Scripture looked at each other in bewilderment. This meant that this person was actually at the scene where the most beautiful woman in the world was taken away. In other words, the Kingdom's Silver Knights were truly the attackers that day. I thought it was just a casual inquiry, but I didn't expect to get such important news, which almost confirmed the other party's identity. The breathing of Giant Shield Thousand Arms became heavy. Ever since the failure of that mission, he has been blaming himself. Now that he knows the identity of the attacker, how can he not be excited? Can you take responsibility for what you say? Of course. Eli's voice became very cold. To be honest, I don't believe he is the Silver Knight, because he is very concerned about his whereabouts being exposed, and robbery is not the act of a hero. Everyone in the Black Scripture fell silent, and the theocracy did not believe that this man was a Silver Knight, because the true identity of the Silver Knight is no secret among the top leaders of the church. The Platinum Dragon King is very hostile to outsiders, believing them to be the filth of the world, including the 6 great gods of the church. The power of the church is the strongest among all countries, but they dare not expand, nor do they dare to blatantly use the treasures left by the gods, for fear of attracting the attention of the Dragon King and bringing about a catastrophic disaster. The Blood Emperor sensed the solemn atmosphere at the scene and realized that he must have known some terrible news. He began to worry about his own personal safety. The church has always been overbearing and is not a good person. Quinn Eyes calmed down and replied seriously, thank you for your information, Your Excellency. This is very important to the church. The theocracy? Is that the Cillian theocracy? Yes, we are the strongest force of the theocracy, the Black Scripture. The second purpose of this trip is to invite you to join the theocracy. Talents should not be buried. Is it true that talents are buried in the Empire? That's really rude. Sig glanced at the Blood Emperor, but the other party didn't react at all. So that's what he meant. He was selling himself out. 1 talent in exchange for the support of the church. This is a very cost-effective deal. No wonder he is so enthusiastic. I'm sorry, but my goal is to kill the dragon, so I won't stay in one place for too long. Don't be so harsh. We in the church have powerful means that may be able to help you. Being able to survive at the hands of the Silver Knight is enough to prove Eli's worth. Quinn Eye's persistence did not arouse any suspicion, and they also hope to have a strong partner. Please let me think about it again. Quinn Eyes nodded and stood up. In that case, we need to go back and report. The door of the church is always open to you. After the Black Scripture completed its mission, it was time to leave. Sig suddenly said, Sir Quinn Eyes, I want to talk to you alone. As the team leader, Quinn Eyes was fully responsible for this mission. Other members of the Black Scripture had no right to refute and could only make suggestions. After consulting his companions, Quinn Acer agreed directly, okay. Quinn Eye's recent performance has been outstanding. His strength has improved by leaps and bounds, and his negotiation ability is also very strong. He is showing signs of becoming the #1 player under the captain. The higher UPS of the church attach great importance to him, and he is the team leader in almost every mission. No one doubts his loyalty. I still have government affairs to attend to, so I won't bother you anymore. Taking this opportunity, the Blood Emperor tactfully left. If he stayed here any longer, he was really afraid that he would be forced to die young. The rest of the members of the Black Scripture also left, leaving only Quinn Eyes and Sig in the room. Quinn Eyes was uncomfortable. Sir Eli, what do you want to say? Should he kneel down, call the master directly, or just pretend he didn't know? Sig sat down casually, raised his hand to take off the mask, revealing his true face. There is magic here to prevent prying eyes, no need to act anymore. Nabe had already sent him a message. They had already informed Nazarick that this place had long been under full surveillance by Nygret. Quinn Eyes breathed a sigh of relief, his legs softened and he knelt down with his forehead pressed tightly against the ground, as devoutly as if he was worshipping a god. Quinn Eyes Hasia Kuntia, I am here to meet the master. Sig waved his hand in boredom. No need to be polite, you have always been in contact with Albedo. Quinn Eyes remained kneeling. Yes, thanks to the guidance of Lady Albedo. With my own abilities, I would have been discovered by the theocracy long ago. Don't be modest, you have great talents. Quinn Eyes' original talent was very good, and he was also a leading figure in the Black Scripture which was full of freaks. Sig was initially attracted by his identity as Clementine's brother, but later he also admired his personal abilities and was very glad that he chose him. With such an outstanding brother, it is natural for the parents to favor him, and Clementine will indeed always live in his shadow. But now, Quinn Eyes will be completely defeated. Quinn Eyes had no idea what Sig was thinking, and he didn't know that his sister's strength had surpassed his own. Hearing the praise, he could only be more respectful. This was the way of survival that Lady Albedo had always taught him. Thank you for the compliment, master. Sig doesn't like to make people kneel, which makes him look like a tyrant. He thinks he is a good leader. Quinn Eyes, stand up and answer. Tell me about the mission Albedo gave you. Quinn Eyes stood up immediately, his face covered with sweat. He felt dizzy and needed to take deep breaths to avoid fainting. He really wanted to kneel down, lie on the ground, and kowtow hard, as long as he could get forgiveness. It is unforgivable for a servant to obey the orders of others and act on his own initiative. Master, Lady Albedo ordered me to push the theocracy to investigate the identity of the attacker. Quinn Eyes' voice was shaking so much that he felt like his mouth wasn't his own. As expected, Albedo would indeed do such a thing. Sig's voice was calm, and he didn't seem angry. He was simply stating a fact that he seemed to have known for a long time. Quinn Eyes became more and more frightened. As expected, nothing could be hidden from the master's eyes. He shouldn't have been optimistic. Keep pushing forward. Why? Sig said coldly, I won't say it a second time. Quinn Eyes knelt down immediately. His clothes were soaked with sweat. The feeling of being on the line between life and death made him exhausted. Yes, sir. Sig took out a ring and said, you have done well. I will reward you accordingly. Albedo's orders are my orders. Quinn Eyes took the ring in a daze, and it took him a while to react before he remembered to thank him. Thank you for the reward, master. When he raised his head again, Quinn Eyes was already crying. It was unclear whether he was moved or happy. His eyes became even stranger, almost fanatical. Sig thought the look was familiar, and after careful consideration it occurred to him that he had seen something similar in Clementine's eyes. Complete domination does not make the dominated have faith, it only makes them obey, roughly and unconditionally obey. Sig seemed to have inadvertently turned Quinn Eyes into his believer. It was really magical. He was just giving a sweet date after giving a good one. Keep working hard, I won't treat you unfairly. Quinn Eyes completely surrendered. Master, I want to know the deep meaning between you and Albedo. In the past, Quinn Eyes was a passive recipient. After all, the theocracy was his home, so he would feel reluctant and lacked subjective initiative in his actions. Now he wants to understand his master and do his best for the mission, even if it means hurting his former companions and their families. Sig smiled slightly, and asked with a very malicious look, do you really want to know? Even if you know that the church will be destroyed because of this? Yes, master. It's okay to tell you. If the theocracy had stayed in a corner, how could we have a legitimate reason to attack? Albedo would not do useless work, nor would she betray. So there was only one reason for her to do so, to create a reason for Nazarick to attack the theocracy. Sig said it calmly. Quinn Eyes might have been scared before, but now he just wanted to kneel down and praise his master's unparalleled talent, and in fact he did so. In order to conquer the world, the church is nothing. This is a great cause. After all the praise, even Sig, who was thick-skinned, almost got angry and quickly let Quinn Eyes leave. To be honest, faith is a terrible thing. It can turn good people into lunatics. Don't believe in random things. In the theocracy, the 6 chief priests gathered together. On the round table was placed a mission report, which was written by Quinn Eyes himself. The report has been opened and circulated. Everyone looked unhappy, and a depressing atmosphere was brewing in the room. The kingdom has the most fertile land, but it breeds drugs and corruption, while the neighboring empire is developing rapidly. They had originally planned to give the kingdom some time, but now it seems that is no longer necessary. The chief officer of the God of Wind, Dominic Ilbedos, was the first one who couldn't help it. He used to be a member of the Holy Scripture of Sunshine and had killed countless alien races. He could not tolerate any grain of sand in his eyes. The kingdom sheltered the enemy who stole the most beautiful woman in the country and became an enemy of the church. This was a betrayal of humanity, and it was an unforgivable mistake regardless of whether it was known or not. The kingdom is a traitor to humanity? They must be destroyed. This statement characterizes the kingdom as a very harsh and ruthless judgment, which is really too serious. None of the other priests refuted, and their eyes were filled with coldness. To be honest, compared with world-class props, a kingdom is nothing. One-man division, have you finished your report? The girl with black and white hair leaned against the wall, her heterochromatic eyes shining with a strange light. Special seat of the Black Scripture codenamed Absolute Death, the only God-man, the strongest and undefeated existence in the Church, the protector of mankind, the guardian of the 6 divine artifacts, and the disciple of the guardian God of the Church. The many titles she has are enough to show how powerful she is. But the most important thing is that Zcizme is the enemy of Nazarick and the enemy of his master, and that is enough. This information flashed through Quinn Acer's mind, and he replied calmly, yes, Lord Juicejwaming. The Dark Scriptures all have their own unique code names. They do not call each other by their real names, but are accustomed to referring to each other by their code names. Juicejwaming adjusted his hair and asked casually, has the true identity of the person in silver armor been confirmed? Quinn Eyes smiled and nodded, it's basically confirmed. This person is currently in the kingdom and has stolen the title of Silver Knight. Oh, there is such a thing. According to reliable information, during the turmoil in the kingdom some time ago, he and the adventurer Fifei saved the capital. He has now become a guest of honor in the kingdom and will not be leaving in the short term. Juicejwaming has a special identity and she has a high priority in the church. Even if the chief priest comes, he cannot refuse her request. So Quinn Eyes told the other party all the information without hiding anything. I understand. Juicejwaming agreed, then ignored him, took out the Rubik's Cube and started playing with it by himself. Quinn Eyes was not embarrassed. He knew very well that Juicejwaming had such a strange personality. She only says a few more words when she is teaching someone a lesson. Most of the time, she doesn't like to talk to people and usually just ignores them. Only the captain of the first seat can say a few words to her. If there is nothing else, I will leave first, Master Juicejwaming. Juicejwaming nodded slightly, revealing her ears hidden by her hair. Her long pointed ears showed that she was not a pure human. She is the child born from the union of an elf and a human, or to be more precise, a half-elf. Ordinary half-elves mature very quickly, reaching adulthood at around 20 years old, and their lifespan is not as long as that of pure elves. They are outliers in both human and elven societies. But Juicejwaming is different, her bloodline is too powerful. His father, the Elf King, is the descendant of the 8 Desire Kings, and his mother is the descendant of the 6 Great Gods. The combination of the two is the fusion of the player's blood, and the child born is destined to be extraordinary. Juicejwaming proved this point, easily breaking through the heroic limit of LV29. The abnormal person of LV35 was not the limit either, and the level finally reached the terrifying LV88. Even though she was only half-elven, her lifespan far exceeded that of humans and half-elves. She appeared to be a teenage girl, but in fact she had lived for 100 years. Where's Quinn Eyes? A man ran out in a hurry. He was wearing casual clothes. His neutral face was set off by his long hair, making him look like a long-haired beauty. Juicejwaming didn't even raise his head. He's gone? The person who came was the second godman of the church, who claimed to be the captain of the godman of the Black Scripture. In fact, he does have the capital to do so. All members of the Black Scripture are hero level, and only one is an abnormal person, but his level has reached above LV60. Captain Shenron was a little mad. I have something else to ask. The attacker's identity has been confirmed. This is no longer a secret among the top leaders of the church, and the captains of various holy books have received the news. But if you want to know the latest information, you can only ask the chief priest and Quinn Eyes. It is difficult to get it from the chief priest, so you can only start from Quinn Eyes. Juicejwaming was playing with the Rubik's Cube seriously, and only the last 2 sides were needed to restore it. If you want to know about the attacker, I think I can answer the question. Really? Juicejwaming restored the Rubik's Cube and threw it into the arms of Captain Shenron. Let's talk somewhere else. There's a top-secret mission. Captain Shenron hurried to catch up. The task that required him and Juicejwaming to do was definitely not a trivial matter. To be serious, it might even concern the fate of the church. Demiurge was busy at the ranch when he received Sig's message. Upon hearing the news of the adults' arrival, he immediately made preparations to welcome them. Welcome, Lord Sig. Sig looked at the bone products everywhere in the house, feeling curious and a little amazed. Zayadai was really an expert in this field, as he could come up with so many different kinds of bone products. It's too crowded here, Lord Sig, please move to the lounge to discuss matters. I will be there shortly. Demiurge bowed and extended his hand to make a gesture of invitation. Sig naturally would not refuse. He followed the servant to a pavilion. Small cakes and black tea were already placed on the table, and a maid was serving him. With the operation of magic, even without sunlight, the plants here grow well, and the lush green grass around brings a fresh scent. It is such a wonderful thing to sit here and have a cup of afternoon tea. Demiurge arrived almost a minute later. Sir Sig, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. No need to be so polite in private, just sit down and rest together. Yes. Demiurge sat down opposite him. Lord Sig, are you here for the matter between the kingdom and the theocracy? Haha, you guessed it. Demiurge, you really understand me the best. I dare not make any guesses. You must have planned it long ago. Demiurge's mouth curled up, and he was obviously in a very good mood. His tail was shaking unconsciously. Sig felt very bad, so he decided not to say anything, to avoid the two of them having different ideas. It would be better to listen to the other party's ideas first. In that case, Demiurge, please tell us your opinion. Demiurge did not refuse. His excitement was evident in his words. Under Lord Sig's plan, the theocracy has already abandoned the kingdom. The kingdom is now isolated and helpless. Our invasion plan can be implemented earlier. Yes, it seems I don't need to explain too much. Sig nodded pretentiously. No way, how could I have thought of this? There is no plan at all. Sig screamed in his heart. It's just that I was lucky and the results were all good. Who on earth can look ahead 10 or even 100 steps before taking one step? Well, the person in front of me seems to be able to do it. It seems that Shaltier has even thought about the development of the magic kingdom in 100 years. Sig has always been a bad person, always giving ins chicken soup when he has nothing to do. He has never dealt with the affairs of Nazarick and just hangs out outside all day. Whatever, since he was misunderstood as a conspirator, he would just take it on with his acting skills. He had no other choice anyway. Have you made a detailed plan? Albedo and I are currently planning the Sorcerer's Kingdom's debut. Please leave this small matter to me, but there is one thing I would like to ask you. But it's okay. Sig-sama, can you become an enemy of Insama? As soon as Demiurge said this, the maid beside him was shocked, and the guards and servants hidden around him became agitated. Sig smiled helplessly. Xiaodi, don't leave your words half-sentenced, you're scaring everyone. Demiurge was stunned for a moment, then he stood up and apologized. Sir Sig, it was my mistake. If his words are not considered in context, they are indeed ambiguous, as if he is instigating Lord Sig to betray Lord Ins, which is bound to cause panic. Sig laughed and took a sip of the tea. I'm not blaming you. You just want me to act out a scene with the president and act like we're hostile to each other. Yes, you have guessed it long ago. Demiurge raised the corners of his mouth and revealed a relaxed smile. The atmosphere at the scene eased, the maid breathed a sigh of relief, and all the noise around her disappeared. The two men sat opposite each other and began to talk about the affairs of the kingdom. Sig said earnestly, it is easy to destroy a kingdom by force, but the subsequent rule is the most important thing. As the saying goes, it is easy to conquer a kingdom, but it is difficult to keep it. It may not be easy for humans to accept that they are ruled by the undead and that their descendants will be ruled by the undead as well. In this world, compared with other races, the undead have an extremely bad reputation. Whenever they appear, they will be attacked by everyone. The undead are synonymous with evil. Demiurge agreed with this statement. Humans are stupid creatures. If they could understand the situation, you and Insama wouldn't have to worry about it. Accepting the rule of the strong was a normal thing for Demiurge. The king must be strong, and it is a blessing for subordinates to follow a strong man, just like Lord Sig and Lord Ins. Being able to work for the two supreme beings is their greatest happiness as subordinates. For the greater good, it's not a big deal. Sig chuckled, I'll play the hero, and that way their expectations won't be in vain. Demiurge exclaimed very sincerely, ah, you are so kind, it is a blessing for mankind. Kindness? Maybe. Sig was once a human being, but this is not his world, and he does not have any relatives or friends among humans, so he does not have much compassion. Ins probably has similar ideas, not showing sympathy for humans, and not deliberately causing killings. Under Nazarick's rule, humanity's situation will not be any worse than before, and that is enough. So, a miserable defeat is fine. The identity of Silver Knight is of no use anymore. Its original intention was to lure out the Platinum Dragon King, but now it has indirectly accomplished a lot, which is more than worth it. Demiurge said seriously, Lord Sig, that would be beneath your dignity. Sig disagreed. Oh, but a simple failure should not be able to wipe out the resistance of the people of the kingdom. The resistance of ants is also quite troublesome. Demiurge's eyes sparkled, and he said sincerely, I hope you can achieve dual rule with Insama. Two kings ruling together. Sig recited these words carefully and was confused for a moment. He was almost blinded by Xiaodi's diamond eyes. Demiurge said without hesitation, yes, Lord Ins is the Sorcerer King, and Lord Sig is the Holy Dragon King. The two of you will rule the kingdom together. But I'm not good at handling official business. Sig was really distressed. How could he persuade Demiurge to give up this idea? Sig adults. Demiurge suddenly became excited and half knelt on the ground. Please consider my suggestion. After a long silence, Sig finally responded, well, I still need to discuss this matter with the president, so you can leave first. Sig returned to the Empire through the portal, and Nabe waited in the room for a long time. Please wait here, Nabe. Nabe quickly shook her head, it's my duty. Where's Lupus Regina? Lord Sig, Lupus Regina has gone to find out information from Archie. Nabe gave a routine report without any emotion. It turns out that it went there to play with humans. Just don't kill anyone. Sig nodded and praised with a smile, you actually remembered Archie's name. It seems like you've made great progress. Nabe didn't expect such a detail to be noticed, and replied in a panic, thank you for the compliment, Sig-sama. This is the result of your and Albedo-sama's careful cultivation. Sig smiled helplessly. What a difficult maid to adapt to. Anyone else would have laughed happily at this moment. By the way, is there any movement from the Blood Emperor? No, he hasn't sent anyone to contact us since we moved out of the Imperial Arena, not even to monitor us. After the Black Codex arrived, Sig moved back to the Singing Apple room of the hotel on the grounds that it was inconvenient. The Blood Emperor did not stop him, but instead rewarded him with many jewels. Sig had indeed expected the Blood Emperor's reaction. As an emperor, this guy was really flexible and did things flawlessly. It seems that the theocracy promised him a lot of things, which made him give up on bringing Eli into his camp. Nabe said angrily, "How dare you, you despicable bug, plot against Lord Sig." Sig was amused by her. "It's okay, the Blood Emperor is just a small character, there's no need to bother with him. This is a good thing, no one is paying attention to our whereabouts. I need to go back to Irentel to see the guild master. If anyone asks me where I am, you know what to say. Have no idea. Ha ha ha, that's it." Sig sent a message to Ins, "President, open a portal. I need to meet you to discuss something." Portal magic is really convenient, but Sig does not have a proper magic profession, and the number of magic he has learned is relatively small. He does not know teleportation magic. Although you can also use teleportation magic items, they are consumables, and one less item is needed when you use one. When Ins uses magic, it only consumes a little MP, which can be recovered quickly. This is much more convenient. Ins immediately replied, "Sig-san, I'm outside now, wait for me for 5 minutes." Sig replied, "Okay." 5 minutes later, a portal suddenly opened. The coordinates were very precise, worthy of being a great magician. Sig stepped into it and in a blink of an eye he was in another hotel room. "Hello, President, long time no see." Ins was still wearing the same outfit as the adventurer Momon, but he took off his helmet, revealing a bear skull. "Sig-san, why are you so heartless? I want to be as open-minded as you." Sig wondered, "What's wrong?" Ins stroked his head, his voice filled with sorrow. "I already know the kingdom's plan. I feel a lot of pressure. I just found out from Zyadai, there's nothing else." Sig touched Ins' arm like a good friend and said, "Why don't you reject the idea of the two kings joining forces for me? You know I can only fight, not use my brain." "Sig-san, you didn't know that. What happened again? Demiurge is doing this entirely for your own good. He's arranging a position for you." Wait, you mean to say that Demiurge has already decided on the job assignments in the Sorcerer's kingdom?" "Yes, as far as I know, Albedo is the prime minister, Shaltier is in charge of transportation logistics, and Cocytus is in charge of the lizardmen." Ins knew them all by heart, and had obviously memorized them all. Sig raised his hand to stop Ins from continuing. "Then you are the Sorcerer King, and I am the Holy Dragon King." Sig and Ins are both supreme beings, and although Ins is the most respected, in the eyes of NPCs, there is no difference in their status. Demiurge must have thought about this for a long time. In order to make the identities of the two supreme lords match and both have supreme status in the Sorcerer's kingdom, he must implement a political system of dual king rule. Sig sighed, Zyadai's thinking is too comprehensive. It's hard for him to come up with it. Ins said earnestly, "So, you really misunderstood him. How could Ulbert's child have any bad intentions? You, Ulbert, and Takamai, I remember you three had the best relationship." Sig held his forehead helplessly. "Ulbert and Takamai quarrel all the time. I am so uncomfortable being caught in the middle, they even call me a fence-sitter." When talking about the past, Ins' mood became better and he became more talkative. "Ha ha ha, the relationship between the two is actually not bad, it's just that they often have disagreements due to different ideas. In fact, everyone cherishes each other's friendship." Sig thought about it carefully and it was indeed as Ins said. Ulbert didn't really hate Takamai, but he was more of a vent, transferring his resentment towards society onto the successful Takamai. Takamai is a man with an overflowing sense of justice. Just like the professional policeman he is in real life, he likes to help the weak, so his behavior is idealistic and sometimes he does some ridiculous things. They both have one thing in common, they are both very immature. Ha ha ha. Ins suddenly burst into laughter, leaving Sig confused. Did he say something wrong? Sig-san, do you think you are not a Chuyunibyo? Ulbert, the great demon who wants to destroy the world, Takamai, the hero who saves the weak, and Sig, the dragon knight who is crazy about dragons. In the eyes of the rest of the guild, they were just a group of 2 or 3 people, all of whom were fantasies that they had in middle school. "Lauku, what do you want?" Seeing that Sig was about to get mad, Ins stopped laughing and said, "Let's talk business. Is this the only thing you want to talk to me about?" Sig sat down unhappily, picked up the teapot and poured water into his mouth, gulping down the whole pot before stopping. "I'll report to you what happened recently so that I don't have any discrepancies with you." "That's great. I'm all ears." With Sig acting as the middleman to pass messages, Ins felt much more at ease. He was no longer worried about not understanding what his subordinates were saying. Sig simply explained what happened in the Empire and the attitude of the theocracy, and connected it with the attack on the kingdom, making the whole thing easy to understand. Ins was silent for a while, then asked in a deep voice, "Sig-san, are you sure you didn't plan this on purpose?" Sig scratched his head frantically. "I really didn't plan it, it was just a coincidence." "How are you the same as Demiurge?" "Okay, I believe you." Sig glanced at Ins. The old man definitely didn't believe it. Never mind. It didn't matter anymore. "Anyway, my message has already been delivered. We'll act accordingly when the time comes. We'll just treat this as an entertaining PvP match and have an exhibition match. Then I'll just use some loud magic." Ins has learned as many as 718 kinds of magic, and by using the skill Wisdom of Darkness he can learn new magic from magic casters. There are so many magics to choose from. Sig waved his hand. Whatever, I have complete resistance to instant death, and ordinary necromancy magic can't do much damage to me, but don't use Death End. I don't want to waste the resurrection item. The full name of Death End is Death is the end of all life. As long as this special skill is activated, even inorganic objects can be killed, even those with complete resistance to instant death. If Sig is hit by this move, he will lose his life. This is a very scary skill. Ins said helplessly. Sig-san, I am so unreliable in your eyes. Sig blinked. Just a reminder, President. By the way, where is Clementine? Why don't I see her? Clementine is out preaching. She has recently gathered a lot of Holy Dragon God followers, so she has been very busy. I haven't seen her very often. However, Clementine's move also indirectly increased Fifai's popularity, and Ins had no reason not to let her go, so he let her go. Hey, aren't you lonely then? Sig was accompanied by Nabe and Lupus Regina, two beauties by his side, but Ins was alone, and he felt a little guilty. Ins didn't care at all. It feels great when no one is following me. I can enjoy my free time. I can also be myself and relax a little. So you are such an old bone. Sig-san, please stop calling me names. It's not nice. Sig smacked his lips. To be honest, I really want to have a drink with you, but I'm afraid your body will leak out even if you force yourself to drink it. Ins nodded in agreement. Sometimes I miss that human body. There is a bar on the 9th floor of the Great Tomb of Nazarick, so it would be fun to go in and have a drink when you have nothing to do. Although for a ruler, indulging in alcohol is an irresponsible act. But Sig is resistant to poison, so he won't get drunk no matter how much he drinks, so it's totally fine to just enjoy it. Ins suggested, I heard from the deputy head chef that Demiurge likes to go to bars. Maybe you can try your luck there. If you see him, just tell him straight away. Demiurge had requested that, so Sig should have given him a formal response instead of just a verbal notification. Sig was a little tempted, but when he turned around and saw the lonely Ins, he hesitated. Ins waved his hand, very considerately, don't worry about me. I still have a mission to complete. Although he received a large amount of money from 8 Fingers, Ins had already developed the habit of being frugal, and he saved as much as he could. Anyway, the undead don't eat or drink, so their expenses are very low. The expenses of the large tomb are high, so Ins handed over all his earnings. Sig took out a handful of gold coins from the space. President, go and relax and take a rest. I made a lot of money in the Empire. Don't be afraid, President. Your strength is coming. Where do you get so much money? I mean, is this how much money you can make as a worker? Sig took it for granted. It's a gift from the Emperor of the Empire, so it's a waste not to take it. It's all given to me anyway. Shouldn't we put on a show and show our integrity? So what? Can I still claim that I didn't take the Blood Emperor's money? That would be stupid. This seemed to be the truth, and Ins was immediately convinced. The kingdom's Francia Palace is very lively, as a court meeting is being held. Gazef stood upright beside the elderly King Rampasa III, highlighting his unique status. Except for the princess who had already married, the other 3 princes and princesses were all there. The most eye-catching one is naturally the Golden Princess Lana, who has a beautiful appearance and noble character, and is the object of pursuit for many people. Senak, the second son of the second prince, stood up when the demons attacked the royal city. He has a very good reputation among the people and has recently been favored by the emperor. Pablo, the eldest son of the first prince, has nothing to praise except his strong physique. He usually does not attend court meetings. Perhaps it is because his younger brother is too outstanding that he feels a sense of crisis. A lot of nobles came. Almost all of the 6 major noble families came. It has been a long time since such a full group of people came. The topic to be discussed at this court meeting was not that important. I heard that it was just a declaration from an insignificant magic caster. It was just a very boring matter. The nobles were willing to come here just to express their stance to the king and show their respect for the royal family. Sitting on the throne, Rambuza III was very pleased. He had not seen such a scene for a long time. Since the royal family's power declined, the nobles took his orders less and less seriously, gradually forming aristocratic factions, eroding the royal family's power and causing rampant corruption. Now that the Silver Knights have been won over, the power of the royal family has been greatly enhanced, and the nobles no longer dare to act rashly. Even if they are pretending, everyone shows a respectful attitude. The meeting begins now. Rambuza III was full of pride and confidence, and his voice was loud and clear, unlike that of a man of his age. As soon as the servant stepped out, a childish voice was heard from outside the door. Well, we are the proclamation officers, and this is our job. Someone was about to reprimand the guards, asking how they could let a child in on such an important occasion, but everyone was stunned after seeing the face of the person who came. They were 2 dark elves, and the people present had not seen this race for a long time. Although he still looks like a child, he has a very handsome appearance and it is conceivable that he will be very popular with the opposite S*X when he grows up. Faced with the adorable child, Lambuza relaxed her guard and her voice became much softer. Children, who are you announcing for? Sending such a young child to be a diplomat is bound to be looked down upon, and the master must not be a mature guy. Aura gave Mare an encouraging look and said, go for it. Mare said weakly, yes, this is the Sorcerer King's declaration of war. You must listen carefully. It had no deterrent effect at all. Everyone present even wanted to laugh out loud, but they held back their laughter for the sake of the king's face. Marquis Borelop couldn't help but speak. What a joke. An unknown guy dares to declare war on the kingdom. Soldiers, take them down. 2 rows of soldiers quickly stepped out and surrounded the 2 men. There's really nothing we can do about humans. Aura sighed and pulled out the metal whip wrapped around her waist. This whip is called Queen's Whip and is Aura's main weapon. Although it is not a divine weapon, it is very easy to use. In the eyes of everyone, Aura just pulled the ground with her hand, and the ground cracked, leaving a deep mark, and the surrounding floor cracked. Does the kingdom not even know basic etiquette? Do you want to attack the envoy? The soldiers who were close to it felt as if death was passing by them. If the whip hit them, it would definitely take their lives. If Aura wanted to kill someone, she could certainly do it, but she was ordered not to kill, so she could only scare them. Gazef was already protecting the king at this time, and Rambuza III finally looked at the 2 dark elf children seriously. Please read the notice. Mare cleared his throat, pulled out a scroll and began to read. The Nazarick organization led by sorcerer King Oolgaun is the Sorcerer's kingdom. It has the right to rule over the lands occupied by the kingdom of Riestais. The kingdom is requested to return all the lands immediately. If you do not heed my advice, the sorcerer King Oolgaun will attack the kingdom. This is a justifiable response to an unjust occupation. That's all. The childish voice formed a sharp contrast with the absurd content, making people wonder if it was an illusion. Gazef said in disbelief, Sorcerer King Oolgaun, isn't that the magic caster who appeared in the suburbs of Irantal? The 2 children in front of him turned out to be that person's subordinates. This is complete nonsense. Even if we look through history, the kingdom has the legal right to rule this land. This is simply nonsense. There is absolutely no basis for this. Rambuza III frowned. What did it mean that the magic kingdom had the right to rule over the kingdom's land? This magic king must have gone crazy. The notice has been delivered. We will attack the kingdom. This is a completely just act. Aura put away the whip and waved her hand outside. A giant dragon fell from the sky and crawled in front of her. Mare held his sister's hand and slowly climbed onto the dragon's back. I advise you to surrender and give up the right to rule the kingdom. That way you can still survive. Due to the entrance of Aura and Mare, the palace meeting of the kingdom ended hastily, and many people left with heavy hearts. Lana bowed gracefully, a barely perceptible smile on her lips. After everyone left, only Rambuza III and Gazef were left in the hall to discuss the matter. Rambuza sighed deeply, and seemed to have aged a dozen years in an instant. Captain, what should we do? Gazef didn't know how to answer. Not to mention Lord Gaun, he couldn't even deal with the giant dragon. If the other party has no strength, then the above declaration is just crazy talk and there is no need to pay any attention to it. But the other party is powerful, and the declaration is just a notification. The kingdom has no right to resist and can only accept or be destroyed. Your Majesty, have you forgotten that we still have a hero? Rambuza Ii's eyes lit up. You mean, the Silver Knight. Nazarick's 9th floor, bar. Pitch, another drink please. Sig put down his empty wine glass and licked his lips with satisfaction. There were already more than a dozen empty glasses on the table. Deputy Head Chef Pidge prepared another cup and pushed it in front of him. Sir Sig, your Nazarick. The 10-layer cocktail Nazarick is made from 10 kinds of sweet wine, which corresponds exactly to the number of layers of Nazarick. Each layer has distinct colors and a sweet and refreshing taste, making it worthy of being a signature drink. Sig gently shook the glass. Perhaps due to the influence of the surrounding environment, he was a little tipsy. Thanks. It is my honor to serve you. Pitch's face was slightly distorted, but because of his mushroom-like hair, his expression could not be seen. Judging from his tone, he seemed to be very happy. Demiurge smiled slightly, feeling very happy at the moment. Lord Sig, the plan has already begun. The capital of the kingdom, the royal city Laurent. This is the core of the kingdom, the residence of the royal family. The building is magnificent and the ground is paved with bluestone slabs without a speck of dust. After experiencing the demon attack, it is not easy to recover to this level in a short period of time. Everyone who lives here is a noble with a title and has close ties with the royal family, except for one person who lives here as a commoner. Even though he was not of noble status, no one dared to look down on him. The kingdom's hero, the Silver Knight, is living in seclusion in the royal city. To show respect, the king also issued a special decree that no one was allowed to visit him for any reason, and if they did not obey, they would bear the consequences. The nobles were not fools. They were afraid of angering the hero with their actions, so even if they had the intention to do something evil, they didn't have the courage to do it. Because he usually interacts with few people, and the only people he sees are a few maids who clean and cook, the double phantom that plays Sig has always done a good job and nothing has gone wrong. When Sig himself arrived, the maids around him did not behave abnormally and just greeted him normally, so he had nothing to worry about. Sig was not idle for long, as soon a maid came up to report. Master, someone who claims to be the warrior captain wants to see you. Calling himself warrior captain? This title is really interesting. How could the maid in the royal city not know the warrior captain? Sig chuckled. Then is he the warrior captain? The maid's face turned red, whether out of shyness or shame. Yes. Sig noticed that the maid looked pretty good, with long pure golden hair and fair and tender skin. It was obvious that she was not a girl from an ordinary family. Rambuza's intention was very clear. If a brief romance could develop into love, it would be of great benefit to the kingdom and the family behind the girl. However, Sig never showed any desire for beauty, and these noble ladies did not dare to seduce him forcefully, thus a strange balance was achieved. Sig did not continue to embarrass the maid. The nobles always looked down on the common people, and it was not her fault alone. Okay, prepare the reception room. I will receive you personally. After receiving the instructions, the maid left in a hurry. Sig stood by the window and looked down. Standing at the door was a tall man. He chuckled and said, "Warrior Captain Gazef, let me hear what you have to say." In the reception room, the maid brought some tea and snacks and then left. Gazef and Sig sat opposite each other. Neither of them spoke at first, but just looked at each other quietly. Seeing that Gazef was having a hard time speaking, Sig gave him a way out. "Sir Gazef, what do you want to talk to me about? Is it about In's owl gown?" Gazef was shocked. "How did you know that?" No, he suddenly remembered that when he first met Lord Gong, Lord Hrasvalber was also there, and the relationship between the two did not seem that simple. Sig sighed, confirming Gazef's thoughts. "In fact, that guy and I are old acquaintances, but we had different ideas and later parted ways. A few days ago, he sent his men to tell me that he was going to attack the kingdom and asked me to leave in advance and not get involved." It took Gazef a long time to digest the information contained in these two short sentences. He said in a hoarse voice, "So that's the case." Sig's tone seemed to carry some nostalgia. Yes, In's ideas were very radical. He wanted to establish a country. "I didn't like being bound by constraints, so I left on my own, and by chance I came to the kingdom." Gazef asked the question that had been bothering him for a long time, "Where exactly are you and Lord Gown from? I have never seen anyone as powerful as you two." Sig touched his chin. "This is hard to explain. Do you know the 8 Desire Kings and the 6 Great Gods?" "Yeah, I heard their legends when I was a kid." Gazef was halfway through his words when he suddenly froze. His pupils suddenly contracted, and his face was filled with undisguised horror. His eyes were confused and frightened, as if the Sig in front of him was something incomprehensible. Gazef, who was always known for his bravery, was actually unable to utter a word. He felt extremely absurd and extremely terrified. "Captain Warrior, please keep this matter confidential." It took Gazef a long time to find his voice. "You and Master Gong, are you the 8 Desire Kings or the 6 Great Gods?" Perhaps Gazef already had his own answer in his heart, but he still did not believe that Lord Gown, who had saved him, was an evil being. "You have to judge for yourself." Sig decided to give Gazef a friendly reminder. Ins doesn't like to kill innocent people. He just wants to achieve his goal. "Do you understand what I mean?" A light flashed in Gazef's eyes, but it quickly went out. He seemed to have accepted his fate. The nobles will not surrender, and neither will the king. As the king's right-hand man, he could only follow the king's footsteps. "Sir, don't you think it's cruel to tell me the truth?" "Haha, maybe I'm not a good person either." Gazef forced a smile and said, "No, it's my emotions. I should thank you for reminding me." Sig raised his eyebrows. He now really admired the warrior leader. "Don't be too pessimistic. I will help the kingdom when necessary." Gazef's mood was so up and down that he almost had a heart attack. He asked uncertainly, "Do you really want to help the kingdom?" "I do have some feelings for the kingdom, but that's not the most important thing." Sig's expression turned serious. "I want to see if the world Ins wants to create is correct." After Gazef went out, he happened to run into an acquaintance. The man was tall and thin, with blonde hair combed back, a pair of narrow green eyes, and overly fair skin that made him look like a sinister snake. Gazef said, "Lord Revan, I have already visited him." Revan paused. "Warrior Captain. Two people who don't get along well with each other rarely have the chance to have a good talk." Gazef thought that Marquis Revan was a two-faced person and had always looked down on him. He did not expect that he would also work hard to help the kingdom when it was in crisis. "Lord Sigris has agreed to help the kingdom. Don't bother him." Gazef left after he finished speaking. Revan was stunned for a moment. He stood there, looking at the warrior captain's back for a long time. Sig witnessed it all standing by the window. He changed back into his half-dragon form, with his powerful perception fully activated, and he could detect any movement several kilometers away. But he didn't do this just to watch the two people talking. He had felt a sense of being watched from the very beginning. When communicating with Gazef, he did not use shielding magic, but only deployed ordinary interference magic, so part of their conversation must have been overheard. "I hope I can catch a big fish." After receiving the good news from the warrior captain, Rambuza III breathed a sigh of relief. "Since the other party has declared war, we must also start preparing for war. Your Majesty, I wonder if we can give up part of our kingdom's territory to In's owl gown. Although Lord Gong wants all the territory of the kingdom, as long as they obey and voluntarily cede part of the territory, it will be enough to establish a country. If Lord Gong achieves his goal, he might let the kingdom go. After that, through mediation and the relationship between Lord Sigli, the kingdom, and the Sorcerer's kingdom will establish friendly relations. Isn't this a win-win situation?" Gazef had a good idea. He couldn't persuade the king to surrender directly, so he took a step back, hoping that his opinion would be adopted. "My warrior leader actually thinks this way. Can you tell me the reason?" Gazef promised Sig not to tell the truth, so he could only vaguely say, "Because In's owl gown is invincible. He is a great magic caster." Ranbuza 3 gave the warrior captain a deep look and said, I'm sorry, but I'm not convinced by this reason. Gazef was speechless. He didn't know what to say. From other people's perspective, they would think he was crazy. He was so scared that he actually tried to force His Majesty to hand over the territory to others. If there were anyone else here, they would definitely yell at him, but that didn't matter. Gazef was unwilling to give up his only chance for peace. Please reconsider, Your Majesty. To be an enemy of In's Gown is to court your own destruction. Ranbuza 3 sighed deeply. My warrior captain, I trust you very much, but handing over the territory to others is not what a ruler should do, and it is also very irresponsible to the people in those territories. Even if the king had to cede land, who would it belong to? With so many nobles and their intertwined forces, they would never allow the king to surrender. Gazef said in a hoarse voice, Your Majesty is absolutely right. Please forgive my foolish words. This war was not something that Gazef could change alone. Everything he did was in vain. The demise of the kingdom was inevitable. The second Prince Senak pushed the door open and walked in. Father, we have gained the support of the Silver Knights. Please have more confidence. The next person to enter was Marquis Reven. He really worked hard for the kingdom. His previous refined image, with even his hair down to the smallest detail, was gone, and he looked a little more dusty. Your Majesty, my subordinates are original bronze-level adventurers and can be used as combat power. By the way, adventurers, they are an important fighting force. Ranbuza III's eyes sparkled. How many teams of adamantium-class adventurers does the kingdom have? Reven replied, there are currently 3. Fifai is in Irantel, Scarlet Dew is active in the north, and Blue Rose is in the royal city. We must win them over, even if it costs a lot. In times of crisis, Senak showed the calmness and responsibility that a crown prince should have, which is a qualification for a king that the first prince does not possess. Ranbuza 3 looked relieved. He had doted on his eldest son and neglected his second son. Now it seemed that he was wrong. If the kingdom can win this war, Senak will surely become a good king after he abdicates. Okay, everyone, get moving. We must protect the kingdom. After briefly arranging their respective tasks, the 3 of them withdrew together. Senak called out to Gazef, Captain Warrior, why are you so afraid of fighting? If your highness had seen Lord Gong's strength, you would understand why I did this. Now I have to go and prepare the army, so I won't chat with you anymore. Okay, go ahead and get busy. Senak didn't understand why Gazef had such an attitude. Was he really frightened? Your highness, we must act now. Marquis Reven said slowly, I can see that His Majesty currently thinks highly of you. You must seize the opportunity now. Senak nodded. If he wanted to succeed to the throne, he had to defeat the first prince who was the first in line of succession, so he had to work harder. He secretly felt lucky that he had listened to Lana's advice. If he had just waited, he would have missed the opportunity. I must not disappoint my father's expectations. At the same time, the forces of all parties are also undercurrents. Whether it is the theocracy, the empire, the Holy Kingdom, or the Dragon Kingdom, all countries are quietly waiting for the war to begin. Even the mysterious Council of State was observing the situation, hesitating whether to intervene. The kingdom's army quickly assembled, and adventurers from all sides also took action, all preparing for war. However, most people don't know what kind of enemy they are facing, so they are not that nervous psychologically. On the contrary, because of the particularly united atmosphere, people have developed an inexplicable confidence and feel that they can deal with any enemy. The base of Blue Rose is the royal capital, and they were recruited first. Princess Lana, as the receptionist, explained the current situation to them in detail. Lagiz's face turned serious after hearing this. The enemy actually has a dragon as a mount. We can't deal with it. There is no need to explain how powerful dragons are. They have the strongest bodies of all races, their claws can tear steel, and their scales protect them from most weapon strikes and magical attacks. What's even more terrifying is that dragons can use magic. They have their own magic system, which is extremely powerful. Lana chuckled, the Silver Knight has already agreed to help. Really? Lakis stood up in surprise. After seeing everyone's strange looks, Lagiz's cheeks turned slightly red. How could she be so excited just because of a name? She was obviously very proficient in aristocratic etiquette. Boss, you are not in love with that girl, are you? Gagelan said in a teasing voice, you finally fell in love with her, so I will not compete with you reluctantly. Lagiz's face turned even redder, and she finally calmed down and said, who needs you to give in? Eberua looked at this scene with a bit of jealousy. She had just learned that Fifai decided to stay in Irantel and fight on the front line against the Sorcerer King's attacks, so she would not be able to fight alongside her lover. She really wanted to go directly to Irantel and develop an extraordinary love affair with Master Momon amidst the war. But as a member of the Kenkyengwe, she certainly couldn't abandon her companions, so she could only try her best to suppress her emotions. Am I late? A tall and straight man walked in. Even though one couldn't see his face, just hearing his voice was refreshing. The person she had been thinking about day and night suddenly appeared in front of her. Lagis could not find words to describe her current mood. Sir, why are you here? Sig waved his hand. We are old acquaintances, so there is no need to keep calling me by my honorific. Just call me Sig. Sig. Lakis pronounced the name slowly, her heart filled with sweetness. Iberua was a little wary. Hey, what are you doing here with us? Lana spoke at the right time, with an apologetic look on her face. Actually, I asked Sorcerer to come here. Lagis and Lana were good friends, so she had no scruples and asked directly, is there something else important? Let me tell you. In order to better protect the kingdom, I need to see the scarlet dewdrops. Lana stood up, her eyes sincere. This involves my own selfish motives. It was because of my shameless request that Sorcerer came here. Lagis understood Lana's difficulties. She was just a princess without real power and had to rely on others to do everything. She did not doubt the authenticity of the other party's words. Your Highness, given the relationship between us, you don't need to be so polite. Lana shook her head, her face looking sad, with some crystal tears in her eyes. The image of a princess who cares about her country but is powerless to do anything about it is portrayed very vividly. Sig even wanted to give the other person an award. This woman was worthy of being called a monster. Seeing the princess like this, Kang Qiangwei and the others completely relaxed their guard and waited quietly for her next words. Lana then began to explain her reasons. In fact, her idea was very simple. It was to allow the strongest fighters to build trust and unite together in the face of the enemy. This would increase the chances of winning. This explanation is consistent with the thinking of a princess who has lived in the palace for a long time. She just wants to do something for the kingdom. What's wrong with that? Ibarua felt something was wrong. Then why did you agree to the request? Sig said helplessly, why should I refuse to meet a strong person? Ibarua was speechless for a moment. In her impression, Sig really had this kind of personality. After knowing Fifai's strength, his attitude improved a lot. Lagis was in a dilemma. The leader of the Scarlet Dewdrops was her uncle. Although he was very powerful, he was a bad person. If Sig's opinion of her were to be lowered as a result, it would really be a loss. But at this point, she had no reason to refuse, and now that things had come to this, she could only let nature take its course. I will contact my uncle right away, please wait a moment. After leaving these words, Lakai led Kang Qiangwei and the others out of the room. Lord Sig, things are developing just as you expected. Lana's eyes were empty, with a cold and cruel smile on her lips, and her temperament changed 180 degrees. It is not accurate to say that he has transformed. It is more like he has taken off his disguise and returned to his original character. Thanks to your hard work, don't worry, your long-cherished wish will come true soon. Sig is not stingy with his praise for capable people, and he also likes Lana's habit of not asking too many questions. The captain of the Vermilion Dewdrops is not threatening in himself, but the reinforced armor he possesses is of great significance. Reinforced armor was introduced in the later period of Yggdrasil. Its main function is to help new players quickly catch up with old players. Therefore, even if a very weak person obtains this weapon, he can become stronger than his own level. In order for the plan to proceed smoothly, Sig felt it necessary to solve this trouble. Lana's eyes were filled with excitement, but it was only a flash and soon returned to calm. Thank you, Lord Sig. I am looking forward to the day when the kingdom will be destroyed. Sig laughed, you are a very clear-headed person. If everyone in the kingdom were like you, they wouldn't have died in such unclear circumstances. Lana kept smiling. Foolish people have no need to live. Their death will be the last valuable thing in life. Lord Sig, thank you very much for your efforts in destroying the kingdom. I have been waiting for this day for a long time. Sig couldn't help but laugh out loud. This woman was really interesting. She was actually thanking him sincerely. The kingdom was really hopeless. A quarter of an hour later, Lagis pushed the door open and came in. My uncle got back to me. The meeting is scheduled for the afternoon. Although the Scarlet Dewdrops are active in the council state, they were originally a team of adventurers from the kingdom, and their captain, Aziz Indola, is a noble of the kingdom. Now that the kingdom is in crisis, Scarlet Dew should do its part to help. Adventurers run very fast, and even though there were several cities between them, Kang Qiangwei and Sig arrived at the agreed location an hour early. In front of me is a luxurious restaurant with extremely extravagant decoration that does not fit in with the surrounding buildings. Lagis explained helplessly, my uncle likes to drink. Sig nodded and said nothing more on the matter. The group entered the restaurant, and those who knew the room number went straight to their destination. Lagis stood in front of the box door and took a deep breath. She encouraged herself several times before slowly pushing the door open. Everyone, please don't have too high expectations of your uncle. The scene in the box appeared in front of everyone. A sloppy blonde man was drinking with two scantily clad women beside him. No one present was a fool, and it was obvious what was happening. Lagis was a little overwhelmed. The thing she least wanted to see happened. Uncle, can't you be a little more serious? Aziz didn't care. I didn't even meet him in bed. Now we are serious. The two women beside him giggled and teased Aziz for being immoral while pouring more wine. Aziz accepted all the PRST and played with them as if no one was around. Lagis's expression was serious. Uncle, I'm here to do serious business. Aziz looked arrogant. I don't need anyone to join me. Outsiders will only hinder me. That's my answer. Such an arrogant attitude made Ibarua uncomfortable. Compared with him, Sig was not considered impolite. Let them out. I don't want to say it a second time. Who are you to order us around? That's right. I'm afraid to see people wearing a mask. I might be an ugly monster. The PRST didn't know Ibarua's strength and had no intention of listening to her, so they started complaining to her directly in front of her. Ibarua raised her hand to cast magic, but Sig stopped her. Sig took off his helmet, revealing his handsome face. I am Sigrid's Hrasvorg. I originally wanted to come here to make friends with strong people. Since you have no intention, let's just leave it at that. Aziz didn't expect Sig to be so decisive, and for a moment he didn't know how to respond. Because he knew the Silver Knight, he knew that the person he was going to meet was a fake, so he did not take the meeting seriously and just regarded it as giving face to his niece. Wow, so handsome. The PRST youths exclaimed at the same time as if they were bewildered. She does look good, but is it necessary to be so exaggerated? Aziz lost interest and waved them off. I apologize for my earlier rudeness. If you have something to say, please tell me now. No need. Sig was not indulgent at all. He waved his hand and left. Since we all have to protect the kingdom, let's do our best. It doesn't matter whether we know each other or not. Lagis glared at her uncle and started to chase after him. You missed the opportunity to meet the top strong man. Ibarua said coldly, then turned and left. Before Aziz could react, he was the only one left in the box. He was confused. It can't be just because of two PRST youths. You are disrespecting the Supreme Being, so you deserve to die. At some point, a girl in a silver dress appeared at the door. She was wearing luxurious jewelry and her crystal shoes were shining brightly. She looked like a noble lady, but the mask concealed her true appearance. Who are you? Shaltier Bloodfallen, I grant you true death. While the kingdom was preparing for war, Nazarick was also actively preparing for war, but the atmosphere here was not as tense. The floor guardians wanted to take action, but they were not the protagonists this time. Inz is wasting no time in creating undead, mainly Death Knights, which will be the main force for attacking the kingdom. He can create a certain number of undead every day, just consuming a certain amount of MP and the corpses of dead creatures, as long as it takes time. It is not difficult to create an army. Among them, the mid-level undead Death Knight has the best cost-effectiveness. 12 can be created in one day. Their existence time is almost infinite, and they have the special ability to transform corpses into undead. To exaggerate a little, 1 Death Knight can destroy a city, and 2 can destroy a large city. But just in case, Inz thought he should create a few more. These undead beings were not even followers, but low-level summons. If they died, they died. It would only cost him a little MP. He did not want his friend's children to get hurt. President, you are still busy. In Nazarick, the only one who dared to speak to Inz like this was Sig. Inz stopped what he was doing and asked in confusion, Sig-san, why are you back? I can go back to my own house. Sig smiled and waved his hand, I'm not kidding you, I have something serious to tell you, let's talk somewhere else. The scene changes, and the two are now in an elegant reception room. Sig touched the guild ring on his finger and couldn't help but sigh that it would be better to go back to Nazarick. He could just teleport to wherever he wanted to go without asking anyone for help. Inz took out the kettle, filled the cup with water, and pushed the food that was already on the table in front of Sig. Sig looked at Inz helplessly. President, why do you always feed me? What if I get fat? Will Sig-san still gain weight? Inz's eyes lit up as if he had heard something interesting. Of course, the image in the game is fixed, but this is the real world. If you eat too much, you will definitely gain weight. I see. Sig looked at Inz with complicated eyes. To be honest, Old Bones was also a pitiful man. Inz's body had no flesh and blood, it was just a skeleton. He had no appetite or sleepiness, and even the only sexual desire he had could not be fulfilled because he did not have that organ. Inz probably thinks of Sig as a food blogger. Since he can't eat himself, he watches others eat and gets a sense of satisfaction from it. This can be considered a kind of comfort. After figuring it out, Sig decided not to refuse and slowly tasted the food. During the break from eating, he mentioned the discovery of the reinforced armor, and that Aziz, the leader of the Vermilion Dewdrops, had been captured and brought back to Nazarick. Originally, Shaltier wanted to kill the man directly, but Sig stopped her. Aziz seemed to have a secret deal with the Platinum Dragon King. Killing him directly might alert the enemy, so he had to dig out what was in his brain. Hey! Inz cried out in surprise, and a green light flashed on his body, instantly restoring his composure. The reinforced armor was not that powerful, and the most powerful premium grade would not exceed LV80. What shocked Inz the most was the appearance of a real Yggdrasil weapon. It may have been mostly speculation in the past, but now it is completely certain. When the enhanced armor was first launched, it was criticized a lot. Its original intention was to attract new players who like mechas, but the addition of this strange element caused dissatisfaction among many old players. Few new players were attracted, and many old players quit. Neither side benefited, and ultimately Yggdrasil's decline could be saved. So, where is Aziz now? Sig smiled, I'll let Shaltier decide for herself. She'll probably let the Terror Prince handle it. It was Mare who first started handing over the prisoners to the Terror Prince for processing, and because the results were so obvious, everyone followed suit. No matter how hard the bone is, once it has been baptized by the Prince of Terror, the subsequent interrogation will be very smooth. Even Demiurge was amazed at this. Shaltier is the Prince of Terror's direct superior, so it is perfectly reasonable for him to be handed over to her. Inz felt a chill run down his spine. Sig-san, you're such a mean person. I don't even dare to go see the Terror Lord. Sig's expression was serious. Do you think I dare to go? But how did you catch Aziz? His location isn't that easy to find. Lucasie from Blue Rose is his niece. I asked Lana to act as a matchmaker and I was able to get him out smoothly. Inside, Sig-san, you are so sinister. Why didn't I realize your talent for scheming before? If the guild's military advisor, Bunny Ameng, was here, she would probably also express similar shock. No way, I was just gathering information and setting up a trap. You're not shady. Sig scratched his head helplessly. This is for Nazarick. Although this reason is indeed correct, at least, it can't be so, without bottom line. Instead, half jokingly and half seriously, our holy Dragon King, you must set a good example in the future and live up to this title. I still prefer the original title, Deathwing Dragon Blood Knight. I can accept the Deathwing Dragon King. For the sake of convenience, Sig's game name is more formal, so his title is chosen very boldly, the coolest one can be. The strongest magic caster with a skeleton appearance, which is the title of Ins, is simple and unpretentious. Ins secretly complained in his heart and said that he was not a Chuyunibyo, as you could tell just by looking at the title. By the way, now that we have captured Azes, what should we do with the kingdom? If the Scarlet Dewdrops don't show up, you will be highly suspected. After all, the person disappeared after the meeting, which is hard not to arouse suspicion. Sig raised his lips and said, you forgot about your son. As long as you extract Azes' memory and let Pandora remember it, he will never be recognized with his acting skills. Azes is connected to a powerful man named Platinum Dragon King. When the time comes, let Pandora lure him out, and then, hee. Although we already know the hiding place of the Platinum Dragon King, it is another country's territory after all, so there is no guarantee that he has no means of escape. I heard that the Platinum Dragon King has another stronghold in the Far East, which is his base camp. It would be safer if we set up a net first and then lure the Platinum Dragon King here. Ins was really frightened by Sig's insidiousness. No wonder this guy's PvP win rate was as high as 80%, while his own was only around 50%. It turned out there was a reason for this. Sig-san, if you want to be the boss, you must tell me. I can abdicate immediately. Don't use these dirty tricks on me. Sig held his forehead and smiled bitterly. What can I say about you? Based on the information provided by the warrior captain, the kingdom can determine that the sorcerer king first descended to Karn village, and for some unknown reason, he protected the civilians in the village. Although they were unaware of the relationship between Karn village and the sorcerer king, the nobles did not intend to miss this opportunity. Anyone who has anything to do with the sorcerer king will be destroyed. This is the attitude the kingdom must display in order to save face. Therefore, the destruction of Karn village was inevitable, and even if warrior captain Gazef tried his best to persuade him, he could not stop it. Rambuza III was just a mediocre king. He was carried forward by the crowd and could not show the decisiveness of killing like the Blood Emperor. Because this matter involved so many people, he condoned the noble's actions and sent his eldest son to carry out the mission. The setbacks he encountered over the past few days had left Gazef at a loss. Even though he had sworn to be loyal to the kingdom forever, he was slightly shaken at this moment. He stood on the city wall, looking into the distance sadly. This is Irantal, the front line of the war, and where it all began. Gazef, what are you doing here? Sig walked slowly towards them wearing armor. He didn't even have a weapon, but as long as he stood there, no one would think he was a weakling. The captain of the cavalry didn't know why, but if he had to say it was probably his sixth sense as a warrior. Sir Sigli, I am truly sorry for letting you see my miserable side. After the last long conversation, the relationship between the two seemed to have become closer, and the way they addressed each other became more familiar. Sig came to his side and said, it is not wise to make an enemy of the sorcerer king. You must be mentally prepared. Casualties are inevitable. Royal families usually survive wars, but it is the civilians who suffer. Gazef had prepared himself mentally, but when he heard Sig say that, his hands began to tremble. There are no soldiers in the kingdom who surrender without a fight. As the warrior leader, I will take responsibility. Gazef's eyes were firm. If it really comes to the point of destroying the country, let my death appease the anger of Master Gong. I'm afraid your death will not be enough. Sig admired Gazef's courage, but he also had to tell the truth. Nazarick's attack on the kingdom was not a whim, and no matter what happened, it could not stop the attack. Even if Ins softened his heart because of the warrior captain, he would advance without hesitation. This is indeed cruel, but it is the truth, and everything is for Nazarick. Gazef knelt down without warning. Sir Sigli, this is my last request. Please do not give up the kingdom. I know it's cheeky, but I can't think of anyone other than you who has what it takes to save the kingdom. Sig neither agreed nor refused, but asked, are you a royal or a commoner? The royal family's position is to abandon the common people to preserve the royal family and maintain the rule of the kingdom. The position is for civilians, that is, to protect civilians and change the dynasty. Warrior Captain Gazef was born a commoner, but was chosen by the king and became his right-hand man. On one side are his relatives, friends, and ordinary people, and on the other side is the king who is grateful and has sworn allegiance to him. Sig was very curious about Gazef's answer. It might affect the direction of the war, or it might have no effect. He just needed an answer. Gazef was silent for a long time, and finally gave his answer. I am ready to devote my life to your majesty. But, Lord Sigris, I hope you can protect the civilians. Sig's mouth curled up and he laughed unconsciously. Haha, very good, I like your answer very much. When Climb reached the city wall, he saw only Gazef. Sig had already left. Master Gazef, are you still thinking about tomorrow's deployment? That's right. The deadline given by the Sorcerer King is tomorrow. Irantal has already gathered tens of thousands of troops just to resist the enemy that came out of nowhere. Gazef shook his head. He looked into the distance and smiled with relief. I betrayed His Majesty. A hint of paleness appeared in the eastern sky, and the horn of war sounded. The soldiers had different expressions, some were frightened, some were relaxed, and some were full of confidence. But no matter what, their decision to go to the battlefield will not change. Their lives depend on their superiors and they cannot disobey at all. Inside the royal tent, the king sat on the high seat, the warrior captain and the generals of each legion were all there, and Marquis Revan also joined the battlefield with his adventurer subordinates. Many nobles had relaxed smiles on their faces. After the impact of the dragon had passed, they seriously considered the strength of the Sorcerer's kingdom and came to a fairly reasonable conclusion. That is, the Sorcerer King was actually bluffing and sending a child as a messenger, which has already exposed his lack of strength. It's just a dragon. They have the Silver Knights, so it's not difficult to deal with it. With the military strength of the kingdom, they are not afraid of a magic caster at all. No matter how powerful he is, it is impossible for him to kill tens of thousands of people at a time. If they simply drain the Sorcerer King's magic power, their soldiers will be able to easily take off his head. I really don't know what this guy called the Sorcerer King looks like. I really want to see him. He actually called himself the king. This guy must pay the price. How about hanging the body on the city wall? I think it should be hung in a downtown area, so that it can serve as a warning. Before the battle even started, many people began discussing what to do with the Sorcerer King's body. Lanbuza III frowned slightly. He believed that his warrior captain would not speak nonsense. The enemy this time was definitely not simple. Quiet. An old voice sounded, and everyone stopped talking only after the king spoke himself. Among the nobles, Marquis Revan is the strongest and has the clearest mind. If the kingdom doesn't exist, there's no need for nobles like them to exist, so he will always be in the dark to maintain the king's rule and prevent the kingdom from collapsing. He was the only one who understood best that the kingdom was already in great chaos, and if left unchecked, its destruction was only a matter of time. Marquis Revan once thought about replacing the king, but since he had a child, his thoughts have become much more moderate, and he only wants to do his best to maintain the stability of the kingdom. But only after actually doing it did I realize how difficult it is. Repairing is much more difficult than destroying it. Marquis Revan had a premonition that this would be a great disaster for the kingdom, and he must use all his strength to win the war in order to win a future for his children. Your Majesty, where is the Lord Silver Knight? Will he not participate in the first battle? Rambuza III shook his head. That person only takes action at the critical moment. After all, the Silver Knights were not warriors of their country. It was already very good that they could take action. They could not ask for too much. Marquis Lei Wen also knew this truth. He looked at the warrior captain and found that he was very calm, and his inner anxiety subsided a little. Suddenly, a messenger rushed in from outside the tent. Your Majesty, the enemy's attack is coming. They are all undead. Everyone was horrified and rushed out one after another, and the king was also helped out. A dark mass of undead came from afar. They were wearing armor and marching in unison. They looked like a long-trained army. In front of the army was a gorgeously dressed skeleton undead, floating in the air, surrounded by magic circles. Super-level magic, sky falling. The moment the magic was activated, a second sun rose slowly, and what was visible was a dazzling white color. Everyone looked up at the sky in a daze, admiring the miraculous sight of two suns in the sky. The hot air generated by the super high heat source expanded instantly, swallowing up everything in sight. Within the range of the magic, the soldiers directly turned from solid to gas, without even having time to feel the pain. Not even a bone was left of their bodies, not even a trace of them was left. This scene did not last long, but to those watching, it felt like centuries had passed. As the heat dissipated, a large circle separated the living from the dead. The circle was completely carbonized and blackened, with crystals in several places. This place had become a place of death. The soldiers outside the circle were not affected. They were still alive, but they could clearly feel the terrifying atmosphere coming from within the circle. That was a level of heat that humans absolutely could not survive in. They were standing on the border between life and death. Although the kingdom has a large number of soldiers, many of them are ordinary people and have not received rigorous military training. Many people were frightened to the point of losing their minds. They immediately dropped their weapons and armor and fled in all directions crying. They would rather be deserters than face this horrific army of death. Rambuza III had never seen such a scene before. His dignity as a king was gone. At this moment, he was just an ordinary man who was frightened. Warrior Captain Gazef stood in front of the king. He held the kingdom's treasure, the razor blade, in his hand and spoke in a loud voice like a bell, "Protect His Majesty." The guards finally reacted and used their bodies as shields to protect the king. It took a while for Lambuza to find her voice again. "Captain Warrior, how are the casualties in the army?" "There are nearly 10,000 people." This was only Gazef's estimate. The actual number of casualties would be much higher, as the fleeing soldiers had already begun to cause a stampede. Rambuza III lost all his strength. With just one spell, tens of thousands of soldiers were wiped out. This was not a magic caster, but a complete monster. Marquis Revan could no longer maintain his elegant demeanor and shouted without caring about his image, "Your Majesty, this is not an enemy the kingdom can handle. You must evacuate immediately." Many nobles who were full of confidence were also frightened. They thought it was a good opportunity to achieve success, but they did not expect that it would become their death warrant. Your Majesty, please retreat first. Yes, Your Majesty, the kingdom cannot lose you. Your Majesty. Amid the noisy sounds, Lanbuza Ii's tinnitus became more and more serious. He saw the razor blade in the hands of the warrior captain and vaguely saw how he would die. Captain Warrior, I leave this place to you. Gazef nodded seriously, his eyes never changing from beginning to end. As you command. The nobles seemed to have found their backbone, and handed over the command of their armies to Gazef, preparing to evacuate with the king. Gazef accepted it in full and added, Everyone, I need full authority to command the army. If you agree, you can leave at any time. There was no reason for the nobles to disagree with such a simple request. They were not willing to lose their lives here. When everyone left, only Gazef, Marquis Revan, and a few nobles who still had some integrity were left. Gazef felt somewhat relieved that not all the nobles were cowards. Lord Revan, when will you leave? I will leave of course, but not now. I'm all alone, so it doesn't matter if I die. Don't you still have family? Revan had a complicated expression. The smiling faces of his children and wife flashed through his mind, and he clenched his fists tightly. Damn you, Sorcerer King! Why did you choose the kingdom as your target? There are more than just the kingdom in the world? Why is this happening? Report? The Sorcerer King has requested a meeting. Sig stood on the city wall and heard the sound coming from afar, knowing that the super-level magic had been successfully activated. The war has begun. Brian and Clementine stood on both sides, acting as guards. Both of them are Shaltier's followers. They came here at the same time, which means that their master is not far away. Master Sig, I am here. Shaltier was wearing a pure white dress, dressed like a noble lady. In order to prevent her identity as the kingdom's attacker from being exposed, Shaltier would move around in this form and had to wear a mask to cover her face. Although she did it out of necessity, this outfit looks very beautiful on her, making her look mysterious and mature. The original black and red dress was also very beautiful, evil yet a little cute, like a naughty little devil. Pararon Sino didn't give Shaltier a smart brain, but he compensated her with her fashion sense. It's unclear whether it was a loss or a gain. Sig turned around and said, Shaltier, are you ready? Shaltier nodded vigorously, and a high-pitched voice came out from under the mask. Yes, Master Sig. Ever since the last mistake, Shaltier has always looked listless, and it is said that she always drinks to relieve her sorrow. Sig gave her the task of capturing Azith, and Shaltier lived up to expectations and successfully brought him back to Nazarick. After successfully completing the mission, Shaltier became full of energy. She also participated in the invasion plan and accepted a key mission, to attack Irantal and make Olgaun famous. The main force this time is the Death Knight, but someone is also needed to lead. The guardians on each floor will receive the same tasks, but the difference is the location of the attack. The reason for doing this is simple. For the sake of subsequent management, strength must be demonstrated. Only fear can lead to obedience, these are the words of Demiurge. I'll be counting on you again this time, Shaltier. Sig thought to himself, to be precise, it was the Sorcerer's Kingdom's transport captain, Shaltier. Shaltia twisted her body happily twice, and her voice returned to that sweet and sticky sound, Lord Sig, I still want to get your reward. Sig smiled helplessly, what reward do you want? That's it. That one. The one that Albedo has. Shaltier hesitated, twisting her fingers, and refused to say what it was. Sig vaguely guessed what it was, and with a smile on his face, he waited for Shaltier's next words. Shaltier's face was already red under the mask, and she threw herself into Sig's arms. Lord Sig, you are so mean. Shaltier, do not disrespect Lord Sig. Cocytus exhaled a breath of cold air, and added protective gear to the light blue outer armor, golden gauntlets, and arm guards, a necklace of the same color, and silver anklets on his ankles. To describe it as fully armed is really the most appropriate way to describe it. Shaltier pouted and loosened her arms around Sig. Cocytus, the place you need to go is the capital. I will open a portal for you now. Cocytus nodded. Thank you. Sig suddenly remembered something and quickly called Cocytus. There is one more person that the kingdom cannot kill, Ibarua of Blue Rose. She wears a red cape and a mask. She is a vampire and is easy to identify. Cocytus naturally obeyed the order for such a small matter. Sig thought everything was arranged, and was about to turn around to give Shaltier some more instructions, but he didn't expect her to fall to the ground. Lord Sig, do you like flat breasts? I like them too. As this was an important event in In's life, Sig still explained, this is what happened, but it has not been made public yet. You must keep it a secret. It's actually Lord In's. Shaltier suddenly realized what had happened and opened her mouth in shock. Cocytus was even more excited than her. That's great, Insama finally has a home. Shaltier was startled and asked in confusion, holding her chest, Cocytus, why haven't you left yet? Cocytus touched his head, and a hint of embarrassment appeared on that expressionless insect face. To delay the task in order to listen to Lord Sig is, to put it more seriously, dereliction of duty. If he delayed the important matter of the Supreme Being, even his death would not be enough to atone for his sin. Cocytus bowed his head deeply. Lord Sig, I'm very sorry. There's no news from the president yet, so don't delay anything. Sig waved his hand. You guys can go do your respective tasks, don't worry about me. Yes, they both answered. Cocytus walked into the portal, and Shaltier used teleportation magic, quickly disappearing from sight. Sig gained a brief moment of peace. He turned to look at the two people behind him and said, "Don't forget to keep the secret." Brain knelt down in fear. He had been a member of Nazarick for a long time, but he was still not used to the way these monsters got along with each other. They are obviously not human beings, so how can they talk about love? It's creepy to hear it. Brian turned to look at Clementine, feeling a sense of sympathy. Clementine, who was in a similar situation as him, should have the same thought. "Lord Sig, I obey your command." Clementine raised her head, her eyes filled with enthusiasm, as if she was looking at a holy relic. Her passionate emotions were pure and without any impurities. Brian was shocked and then fell into deep isolation. It turned out that he was just being too sentimental. Meanwhile, the warrior captain successfully meets with the sorcerer king. A table was placed in the middle of the battlefield, with the two opposing sides sitting on either side, forming an opposing trend. Gazef's voice was filled with nostalgia. "Sir Gaun, I didn't expect that we would meet here." Ins hummed solemnly, "Yes, it's been a long time." Ignoring the current occasion, they were like friends who had not seen each other for a long time. There was nothing important to talk about, just a simple reminiscing about the past. Gazef did have such a delusion in his mind, but he quickly came to his senses. "Sir Gaun, if His Majesty is willing to cede enough land, are you willing to withdraw your troops?" "It's a done deal." "I'm sorry." Gazef sighed with relief. This was how humans were. Even when they knew something was impossible, they would still want an accurate answer before they would face reality. Gazef finally revealed the real purpose of his visit. "Sir, I request a duel with you." Ins said coldly, "You are no match for me. I know that I am weak, and I only hope that this life can calm your anger and let go of those soldiers who are unwilling to be your enemy." Gazef would not ask for too much. His life was not worth that much. It would be enough for him to just let those deserters go. Ins was slightly moved. Gazef was a decent man. He always reminded him of his good friend and idol, Takamai. Their faces always overlapped at certain moments. "Okay, do you have any other requests?" If Gazef asked him to let him go and spare his life, Ins felt that he would agree. In fact, Ins was looking forward to him making this request, so that he would have a reason to let him go. Gazef's eyes were firm. "Give me the death a warrior deserves." After a moment's hesitation, Ins gave his answer, "Okay." When Climb rode over, he saw Gazef lying on the ground, his life or death unknown, and a skeleton undead emitting a terrifying aura beside him. "People from the kingdom? Take the body of the warrior captain back. He used his life to buy my forgiveness." Ins slowly flew up, his robes rustling. He looked down at the kingdom and said, "Tell the kingdom's army that I will launch a general attack in a quarter of an hour. Those who surrender or flee will not be killed, but those who resist will be killed." Climb ran to Gazef's body and tried to shake him, but he was no longer responsive and had no life left. He stood there for a long time until a voice broke the silence. "My condolences." Brian walked over. Climb wiped away his tears quietly. "Master Brain, why are you here?" "Of course I'm here to provide support. The Sorcerer King's men have appeared in all major cities, and I'm afraid they'll launch an attack soon." Climb came out of his sorrow and remembered something important. "The Sorcerer King told me to pass on a message. He will launch a general attack in a quarter of an hour. We must hurry back and inform His Majesty." "What are you waiting for? Time is running out. Go back quickly and I'll take care of this." Climb has Princess Lana as his guarantor, so his words are more credible, and it is more appropriate for him to deliver the message. "Then I'll leave it to you, Master Brian." Climb nodded vigorously, mounted his horse, squeezed his legs together, and sped away. Brian came to the side of his old friend, shook off the dirt on his body, and gently placed him on the horse's back. He led the horse and slowly left the place. "I'm sorry." A word of apology slowly drifted away with the wind, and I didn't know who it was addressed to. At this time, Rambuza III and a group of nobles had evacuated to Yellentire. The towering city walls gave people a sense of security, but they didn't feel at ease for long, as the sudden appearance of the enemy made them lose their composure. "I am a subordinate of the Sorcerer King. If you surrender immediately, I will spare your lives." The person who was speaking floated in the air, and through the use of sound amplification magic, his voice was transmitted to every corner of the city, demonstrating his superb magical ability. After seeing the Sorcerer King's power, the nobles no longer dared to underestimate anything related to him, and no one dared to speak for a while. "Rambuza III is really old." He stretched out his hand tremblingly. "Warrior captain? No, where is the Silver Knight?" "Your Majesty, you are looking for me." Sig walked in, completely wrapped in cold and hard armor, his whole body filled with a murderous aura. The nobles consciously made way for the Silver Knights to pass, but Rambuza III could not wait any longer. He quickly ran towards Sig and grabbed his arm tightly with both hands. "Save the kingdom? Please save the kingdom. No matter how much it costs, I will protect the kingdom." Sig was unmoved and simply asked, "Do you want me to take action now, Your Majesty?" Rambuza III was stunned, and his hands fell down weakly. The second prince, Senak, came in just after Sig. When he saw his father in such a state, he hurried forward to support him. "Father, you must cheer up." The warrior leader. "What happened to Gazef?" Rambuza III burst out with amazing strength, and his old hand clasped Senak's arm tightly like an iron clamp. Senak endured the pain and said, "The warrior captain has died. The Sorcerer King has given the kingdom time. The general attack will be launched in a quarter of an hour." "A quarter of an hour?" Minus the time it takes to pass the message, there is only half a quarter of an hour left. Father, please evacuate quickly. If Irantel were to face the Sorcerer King's troops head-on, it would be the most dangerous place. Right now, there was only one safe place, and that was the royal capital. The nobles became anxious when they heard this and urged the king to evacuate. Rambuza III's mind became clear for a moment, and he looked reluctant. What about Shaltier? Since the lives of the people in the city were at stake, no one dared to make the decision to abandon the city on behalf of the king, as this would be a matter of infamy for all eternity. Your Majesty, let us protect Irantel. Fifei walked in, accompanied by Clementine. The appearance of the two was like saviors, sparking cheers. King Ranpiza III felt very sorry for looking down on the adventurer Momon, and immediately promised to give him a generous reward in the future, and let him choose the title and land. Fei, however, said righteously, Your Majesty, you don't have to do this. Protecting civilians is the responsibility of the strong. The greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone's eyes changed when they looked at Fifei. Sig smiled helplessly. As expected of a professional actor, it was the right decision to let Pandora play Fifei. Your Majesty, let me escort you back to the capital. The old king's farewell and the new king's ascension to the throne require a perfect stage, but Irantel does not meet the requirements. Lord Revan, His Majesty the King has evacuated under the escort of the Silver Knights. The messenger was Boris Axelson, a direct subordinate of Marquis Revan, the leader of the personal guard, and a former Orichalcum rank adventurer. Marquis Revan nodded, his frown slightly relaxed. It's been a quarter of an hour. The Sorcerer King should be launching an attack. Everyone, be prepared. Yes. Everyone responded in unison, but their morale was low and their voices were not that loud. The number of soldiers who fled was small, but that was not the main reason. I don't know who was the one who spread the news that the Sorcerer King would not kill those who escaped. Even if they tried to remedy the situation later and emphasized that it was just a trick of the enemy, the morale of the army had already been affected. It was the nail clippers who did it. An army of 200,000 looks intimidating, but only a few of them are capable of fighting. The troops led by the captain may be stronger, but without the commander, they are basically a mess. Everyone knows that this is a war that cannot be won. Those who stayed behind did not do so for the reason of serving the country. They were simply afraid that deserting would implicate their families and they had no will to fight. Marquis Lei Wen knew that the current situation was not suitable for fighting and that he should stabilize the morale of the army first, but he could not care less. The command is now handed over to you. The civilian military advisor nodded silently. Taking on the heavy responsibility at this moment, his future was already doomed. The members of the Royal Guard were also prepared to sacrifice themselves just to ensure that Marquis Revan would survive. Everyone was afraid of death, but they had received favors from Lord Revan and knew his character. Even if they died, their descendants would be properly arranged and would not have to engage in dangerous adventurer work. On the contrary, if Marquis Revan died, they might not even receive this month's salary. When there was no one around, Boris whispered, Quickly retreat, we are here to hold on. Revan opened his mouth and was about to say something, but a deafening scream reached his ears. The Death Knights have come into contact with human soldiers, and they have been ordered not to pursue the escapees, so they just rush forward. The soldiers held up shields in rows, hoping to stop the Death Knight, but human shields were obviously useless. The Death Knight wielded his sword to harvest heads while holding a shield to block attacks with the other, shuttling across the battlefield as if he were in an empty space. Humans were simply unable to organize an effective attack, nor were they able to stop the Death Knights from advancing. Should I stay where I am and wait to die, or should I run away? These two options were fighting wildly in my mind. Until someone couldn't bear it anymore and faced the terrifying undead. He couldn't keep calm at all and dropped his weapon and ran away. There were people nearby who were still laughing at his stupidity. Throwing away the shield within the Death Knight's attack range would accelerate death. However, a magical thing happened. The Death Knight ignored the person who was running away, and chopped off the head of the person next to him. The Sorcerer King did not lie. Those who escape will not be killed. I don't know who shouted this, but those who were still holding on dropped their shields and ran back. The soldiers in the back row were still confused and kept shouting what was happening. What are you doing? You will be punished for being a deserter. A kind-hearted person stopped and shouted, Are you stupid? The Sorcerer King is so powerful and the kingdom is about to fall. Who can punish you? Another person ran by quickly. The Sorcerer King does not kill those who escape. Run. Suddenly, the kingdom's army began to shout the Sorcerer King's name, and the army quickly dispersed. Revan looked at this scene in shock. His expression was unbelievable. How is it possible that he really didn't kill the person who escaped? The guards also had strange expressions on their faces. It seemed that they didn't need to fight hard anymore. All they needed to do was run away. Insama, you are truly a man of great foresight. Not only did you defeat the kingdom's army in one fell swoop, you also showed a magnanimous heart, which will be very beneficial to your future rule. Demiurge couldn't help but praise him, his eyes full of admiration. Although he was more in favor of using a larger-scale super-level magic to directly destroy the country, such as the Locust Plague of Apocalypse, the facts proved that Lord Inns was wiser. Inns chuckled, appearing nonchalant on the outside, but he was actually very nervous on the inside. Because the warrior captain looked very much like Takamai, he softened his heart and agreed to the request, which was really not in line with the identity of the ruler of death. Fortunately, the result was good and no serious mistake was made, otherwise Sig-san would never let him go. Little, Demiurge, how is everyone's progress? It was a bit dangerous, I almost called out the nickname that I call you in private. In stole a glance at Demiurge, but other than wagging his tail faster, he showed no other reaction. Haha, you scare yourself. The smile on Demiurge's face grew wider. Everywhere is progressing in an orderly manner. Only Cocytus is still in preparation. The capital is a key place, so the attack must be more cautious. Sig sent a message. He will escort the king back to the capital. Let Cocytus continue to lie dormant, and the rest of the people will speed up the progress. Demiurge nodded. I'll make the arrangements. The war on the front line failed, and various places were attacked. In just one day, the kingdom was in turmoil. On the next evening, the king and his entourage finally returned to the capital. Under Sig's protection, they did not encounter any danger along the way, and without using teleportation magic, this was already the fastest speed. Fortunately, Wangdo was not attacked. This was the only good news. Because of the war, the city gate was closed. Someone went forward and shouted, and it took a while to wake up the gatekeeper. A teenage boy in his teens slowly opened the door. He was dressed simply and looked like a commoner. Is it really His Majesty? How dare you doubt His Majesty's identity? The young man was so frightened by the yell that his face turned pale, his legs went weak and he knelt down. Your Majesty, spare my life. Rambuza III stopped the farce and asked, where are the troops defending the city? They ran away. Many nobles also ran away. Where did you go? It seems so, Empire. One noble was furious and said, what nonsense are you talking about? You little brat is looking for death. Shut up. Rambuza III yelled, and then started coughing violently. The second prince, Senak, hurried to help him calm down. Father, please don't be angry. We shouldn't have left Lana here alone. Rambuza III sighed. The group walked into the city in a solemn atmosphere, without the joy they had when they first arrived. I thought I had arrived at a safe place, but it turns out to be more like a cage. Sig gave the boy a gold coin and said, go home, it will be over soon. The young man's eyes sparkled. A gold coin was nothing to a noble, but it was a huge sum of money to him. At least his family would have enough food to eat for a long time. Thank you, could you tell me your name? Sig originally wanted to do good deeds without leaving a name, but after thinking about it, he decided to tell him his future name, Holy Dragon King. Don't make a mistake. It's finally here. Lana stood by the window, watching the carriage speeding into the royal city, the smile on her lips growing bigger and bigger. The square object on the table emitted a faint blue light, as if it was craving for sacrifices. She is just one step away from realizing her long-cherished wish. This is really exciting. Lana held her cheeks with both hands and chuckled, climb, I can finally be with you forever. The huge royal city Laurent was dead silent, and the bustling and prosperous scene of the past was no longer there. King Rambuza III sat on the throne, with the empty palace in front of him. He sighed, is this how a king of a fallen country feels? He ascended the throne at the age of 21 and reigned for 43 years. He never indulged in selfish desires and always implemented benevolent policies. He could not be considered a tyrant. Although he did not make the kingdom more prosperous and powerful, he never slacked off. The problems of the nobles did not arise overnight, and it was already good enough that he could maintain the current level. Rambuza III really couldn't understand why they had to target the kingdom. Was this land really ruled by the so-called Magic King? At this moment, the guard came in to report, Your Majesty, except for Irantal and some remote cities, all other cities have surrendered. The guard didn't get a response for a long time, so he quietly looked up and happened to meet the tearful eyes. I understand. Back off. Yes. The guards retreated in fear. Their king actually cried. What are you doing here? A clear and pleasant sound rang in my ears, and a faint fragrance floated in the air. Only the high-end perfume used by noble ladies could have such a fresh and elegant fragrance. The only one who can come and go freely here is the princess with the name of Gold. The guard lowered his head almost immediately. Princess Lana, I'm here to report the battle situation to His Majesty. Thank you for telling me. Lana chuckled. The guard's cheeks turned slightly red and he stammered, not knowing how to answer. Gageland couldn't help but teased, Virgin, hurry up and leave, or you'll be eaten by your sister. The guard looked in surprise at the woman in front of him who was stronger than himself. An egg could be stuffed in her mouth. He had never seen such a woman before. Okay, it's already this time and you're still joking. Lagis looked worried. The guard waited until Gagran let go of him, then ran away immediately. Gagran curled his lips slightly. I was thinking about having a small snack before the battle. Maybe I won't have the chance in the future. Geglin's original intention was to liven up the atmosphere, but now no one was in the mood for that, so she stopped talking. Where is Sig? Ibarua looked around. The smile on Lana's face froze, but she cleverly concealed it and answered Ibarua's questions as if nothing had happened. Sig-sama has escorted my father back to the city. He should be preparing his weapons to counter the Sorcerer King's final attack. It was a reasonable explanation, and several people had already believed it for the most part. Although it was not a big problem, Lagis still reminded him, Ibarua, you have to be more respectful to Lord Sig. He is the only hope of the kingdom. With the country in crisis, she could no longer count on her unreliable uncle. Of course, she also had some selfish motives and did not want her companions to disrespect the person they admired. Sisters Tia and Tina also nodded. Ibarua stuck out her tongue. I understand. The atmosphere had just begun to become more relaxed when a loud noise suddenly came from outside, and the entire royal city seemed to be shaking. Lagis rushed to the window, her face filled with shock. How is this possible? The Sorcerer King has already attacked the capital. Looking down from a high place, one can clearly see that the city has been invaded. Death Knights are pouring in through the broken city gates and rampaging through the streets. The sounds of wailing and fighting became the main theme of the royal capital, and killing was everywhere. The leader of the Death Knights is a light blue insect-like monster. He holds weapons in all 4 hands, including a katana, an axe, a broadsword, and a mace. His height of more than 2 meters gives off a very oppressive feeling. It cannot be simply called an insect monster. To be more precise, it should be called the Insect King. Ibarua muttered to himself, will insect extermination magic really work on something like this? She could feel that this light blue insect was even more powerful than the insect demon she had encountered before, and they were simply on a different level. Ibarua grabbed her hair in distress. Where did all these powerful people come from? I hope the kingdom will be destroyed soon. A sound of breaking air rang in my ears, and a warrior in silver armor appeared in front of me, holding a long sword wrapped in lightning in his hand. Lagis exclaimed in surprise, Lord Sig, you are finally here. Sig nodded, and an emotionless voice came from under the armor. The enemy is attacking, you must be prepared. Ibarua said, that Insect King is very powerful, let's deal with him together. Insect King. Sig turned his head to look outside, and realized that Ibarua was talking about Cocytus. He shook his head slowly, no, I have other things to do. Where are you going? Lagis looked like she was about to cry. She didn't understand why she was feeling wronged. She was already an excellent warrior, but she was willing to risk her life over a small matter. Sig sighed imperceptibly and tidied up Lagis's scattered golden hair. I'm going to deal with the Sorcerer King. I'll leave the enemies in the city to you. Feeling the cool touch of the armor, Lagi's heart gradually calmed down, her green eyes shining. We will all come back alive. Sig suddenly felt a little regretful. He should have told Cocytus not to touch anyone in Kenkiengwe. They seemed to cherish their companions very much, and it would be bad if Ibarua felt resentful because of the death of a companion. But it's not a big problem. Death is just a state. Except for the complete death skill possessed by Ins, the rest can be resurrected as long as there is a corpse. Blue Rose and her group left. When they were no longer in sight, Lana asked, Lord Sig, where is Climb now? Sig replied, he should be on his way to the capital. Don't worry. I have arranged for Brian to protect him. Lana raised the corners of her mouth, but the smile did not reach her eyes. Thank you, Lord Sig. This supreme being was really deep-minded. She could hardly see through him. She had originally thought that she did not need to use all her abilities. She was too arrogant. Fortunately, she had Climb as her weak spot, and she was smart enough to think that this gentleman was just warning her and would not really break the contract. Lana took the initiative and said, Lord Sig, I will deal with Ranbuza 3. Please give me a weapon that suits me. You want to kill your father. Lana took out the square box and held it carefully in her hands. Actually, Lady Albedo has already given me a reward in advance. I need something specific to open it. My father's blood is one of them. Seed of Corruption is a prop for changing races, which can change the race into a demon. He is willing to give up everything to achieve his goal, and is worthy of being described as an alien at heart. Sig casually took out a knife with a golden handle and an inscription engraved on the blade, Go, the creatures killed by it will die without pain. Lana held the hilt of the knife and saw her own distorted smile in the reflection of the blade, but she didn't care. Thank you, Lord Sig. It's almost time. Ins put away his watch. Out of caution, he did not launch an attack right away. Instead, he deliberately stayed in the sky for a long time to see if any players would attack. But alas, players don't seem to exist in the kingdom. Or maybe they are waiting for a more appropriate time and are just sitting on their hands. No matter what, Ins would not allow anyone to hurt his companions. This was his bottom line. Albedo, always be alert, especially when I'm fighting Sigsan. Yes, Lord Ins. Albedo, wearing black armor, was standing by, holding a black scepter in her hand, which was the world-class item Hell's Abyss. It was a powerful artifact with infinite durability and the strongest destructive power against objects. Because she was given the task of protecting the throne, Albedo obtained a knight class specialized in defense. Her HP and defense are the highest among all guardians. She also has the special ability to transfer damage to armor, making her a reassuring guard. If it wasn't absolutely necessary, Ins didn't want to let his friend's child act as a human shield, although Albedo was quite happy to do so. Sig also cares about Albedo, and I heard that the two are in love. Ins felt even worse. He could only vent his anger on those who were enemies of Nazarick. If he had surrendered earlier, there wouldn't be so many problems. He looked down indifferently, raised his hand and opened a huge magic circle. The flickering light made the people below couldn't help but look up. Ins did not have many thoughts about the civilians below. He only wanted to completely destroy the capital to demonstrate the power of Nazarick. He had the power to destroy a country, but he only destroyed a city. Isn't that merciful enough? The most powerful magic, level 10, meteorite fall. For such a densely populated area, the destructive power of super-level magic is limited, and it is not as effective as a meteorite. If it is not enough, just send another one. The 10th tier magic consumes MP to activate, but its advantage is that the cooldown time is very short and it can be activated very quickly. A huge meteorite suddenly appeared in the sky, blocking out the sun's rays. Covered in the shadow were desperate faces. Some people have already knelt on the ground, muttering to themselves, "It shouldn't fall down, no way." But this was impossible, as the next second the meteorite fell rapidly from the sky, leaving behind a long red tail. At the moment of despair, a stream of silver light rushed into the sky. As the sword swung, a bolt of lightning pierced the sky. "Stop, Sorcerer King!" Along with the shouts, the meteorite shattered and turned into countless flaming fragments that fell everywhere. Although some unlucky people were killed and many buildings were damaged, the losses have been minimized and the number of casualties has been greatly reduced. "You are very strong, tell me your name." In's voice was so loud that almost everyone in the city could hear it, and they all raised their heads and looked upward. The Death Knight seemed to have received some kind of order and stopped where he was. Everyone's attention was focused on the three people in the sky. Cocytus also raised his head. The Sorcerer King has met his match. Blue Rose was originally fighting a life and death battle with the Death Knight, and Cocytus was just watching from a distance and did not participate in the battle. They both thought the other would not speak, but unexpectedly, they suddenly spoke. Ibarua couldn't help but ask, "What exactly is your purpose?" Cocytus exhaled coldly, "You should be in awe of the battle between the strong. This is the glory of the warrior." Kenkyangwe and the others looked at each other. They didn't expect that the other party could really communicate. In the sky, Albedo stepped aside while Ins and Sig stood facing each other. It really felt like a fateful battle. Sig pointed his sword at Ins. "I am Sigris Hraswerg. You are too arrogant, Sorcerer King." "Ha ha ha, my name is Ins Oolgaun. I'm sure this name has spread throughout the kingdom." Sig snorted coldly, "To exchange killing and death for reputation, this is not what a king does." Ins nodded unconsciously. What Sig said made sense. After he realized what was going on, he immediately got into the state, and a strong aura of death emanated from his body. "I am the ruler of death. Death is rebirth. Are you going to create a world of the undead and kill all the living people?" Sig's righteous accusation made Ins stunned for a moment. No, he didn't mean to do this. "Well, you don't even want to explain." Ins suddenly understood what Sig meant, and immediately turned on his full aura, strengthening his amplification magic to its strongest level. "Those who surrender or flee will not be killed. This promise is still in effect. It was earned with the death of the warrior leader. The Sorcerer's Kingdom will be a country where all races coexist, whether undead or human, subhuman, or dragon. Under the leadership of the Sorcerer King Ins Oolgaun, all subjects will live happily." Albedo was the first to applaud. Cocytus and the Death Knight below also raised their hands and shouted, "Long live the Sorcerer King." If Ins had a face, he would be extremely angry now. His speech was so confident that he didn't even know what to do next. Sig raised his hand and took off his helmet, throwing it away. "That's a very bold statement. As a sign of respect, I will also show my true face to you." "Ah!" A short and sharp cry suddenly came out of Albedo's mouth. If you were not close, you probably wouldn't have heard it. Ins almost couldn't hold back his laughter, and Sig covered his face helplessly, his jaw tense. "This is serious business, Albedo. Please pay attention to the situation and hold back no matter what." Albedo realized that she had made a mistake, so she stayed aside obediently, not daring to make any further moves. After a strange silence, the two sides quickly distanced themselves. The light on the Sorcerer King's body continued to flicker, as if he was casting a strengthening spell, and his aura became stronger and stronger. On the other side, Lord Sig was also using protective magic. His body was enveloped in a layer of golden light. It could be felt that it was magic of divine attributes, which was very effective in restraining the undead. They were talking just fine, why did they suddenly start fighting? However, they didn't dare to say much about the affairs of the strong, they must have been ignorant. The battle above began, and the Death Knights below also took action again. Those who were unable to resist chose to kneel down and surrender. The Death Knight followed the orders of his master, simply ignored them and went looking for new prey. Many people saw this situation and followed suit. Most of the people left in the city were civilians, and they had no ability to resist. Since they were allowed to surrender, how could they be willing to continue working for the kingdom? Reducing civilian casualties in this way can be regarded as fulfilling the warrior leader's last wish. Of course, there are also fighters who are still fighting back. They are unwilling to give up their country and are willing to sacrifice their lives for it. Kenkyangwe is one of them and also the most powerful force, and has become the leader of the rebels. Cocytus finally took action. The ground he stepped on quickly solidified, and an extremely cold air rushed towards him. "I, Cocytus, will crush your hopes." Ibarua's level is probably above LV 51. He can still fight against a LV 35 Death Knight, but he is completely no match for Cocytus, who is at level 100. Among the remaining members of Kenkyangwe, only Lagis has entered the hero realm, LV 29, and the others have not reached this threshold. In the past, they had indeed hunted down monsters stronger than themselves through teamwork, but they were beasts without intelligence after all, and could not be compared with the current situation. Lagis raised her magic sword and cheered for her companions. "Even if we die, we will not retreat, for humanity, for the kingdom." Everyone responded and morale boosted. "You do have the spirit of a warrior. I was disrespectful before." Cocytus' voice was as cold and hard as ice, and just hearing it made people feel a chill. Gagran was surprised. You're actually quite polite. But you are too weak. You are not worth fighting with weapons in all 4 of my hands. Cocytus stuck the rest of his weapons into the ground, leaving only the katana. Let me fight with the god-slaying sword Emperor. Ibarua used flying magic to float in the air. When she saw the weapon glowing with a cold light, her heart sank. What level of weapon was this sword that made her feel like she was facing death? Cocytus said nothing more and waved to everyone. Come on. As a warrior, Gagran rushed to the front, followed by the ninja sisters. Ibarua deployed a magic circle in the air, and Lagis was at the end, ready to launch support magic and healing magic at any time. This is the teamwork trained after countless battles. They can understand what the other party wants to do just by looking at each other. Stronger than the lizardmen, Cocytus immediately commented, but not by much. They have more combat experience and are at a higher level, but their physical fitness is far inferior to that of the lizardmen, which is the biggest disadvantage of humans. Piercing ice bullet. Several ice crystal cones condensed in Cocytus's hands and shot rapidly towards Gagaran, who was rushing in the front. Be careful! Crystal shield. Ibarua immediately cast a spell, and a crystal barrier enveloped Gagran. Thank you. Before Gagran could finish her words, the ice cone broke through her defense and pierced through her body directly. A big hole appeared on the crimson armor, and blood gushed out. I'm sorry, but low-level magic defense is useless. Cocytus explained kindly. Lagis gritted her teeth, and the floating swords around her body flew out rapidly. First save Gagran. In order to buy time for Lagis to be treated, the ninja sisters stepped forward without hesitation and threw darts on both sides in an attempt to attract Cocytus' attention. Cocytus sounded surprised. Ninja. His creator, Takehito Takemurai, had a good friend named Nishiki Inrei, who was a ninja-type professional, so he was quite familiar with this profession. As far as I can remember, ninja is a high-level profession, and one can only change jobs after reaching LV 60. I thought they were just dressed like ninjas, but I didn't expect they really were. It's just that their professions were different, but their attack power was still in line with their own levels. I have projectile immunity. What a shame. The floating sword and darts were bounced off by an invisible barrier and did not cause any damage at all. Cocytus raised the god-slaying sword and with a simple circular slash, Tia and Tina's legs were directly cut off. Before they could catch their breath, Cocytus raised the blade again, and at the critical moment, Ibarua shouted angrily. Try this trick. The most powerful magic, 5th level insect killer. A cloud of white mist sprayed towards Cocytus. Taking this opportunity, Ibarua flew over quickly and brought the ninja sisters to Lagis. Hopefully it will have some effect. Ibarua prayed like this. This magic was extremely lethal to the Zerg. It was an insecticidal magic she created originally. The white mist soon dissipated, and Cocytus stood still. He said coldly, the magic of people of lower levels has no effect on me. Ibarua's eyes widened in shock. How is it possible that there is such a skill? Cocytus lifted his foot, and a burst of cold air quickly burst out. It's too troublesome to move around. Frost aura. Ibarua hastily defended herself, using her strongest defensive magic, Crystal Barrier. A barrier shining with gorgeous brilliance rose from the ground, and was immediately covered with a layer of ice crystals when it came into contact with the cold air, and it had almost no defensive effect. The 3 people lying on the ground were covered with a layer of ice crystals, their lives or deaths were unknown, and Lagis' feet were also frostbitten. But Cocytus' attack came next, and the god-slaying sword Emperor cut the crystal barrier like cutting tofu, and it broke immediately. Lagis was unable to dodge and had one of her arms chopped off, forcing the healing magic to be interrupted. After just a few minutes, almost all members of Kenkiengui were wiped out, and only Ibarua was still able to fight. However, when a magic caster PKs with a warrior, there is no chance of victory as long as the warrior gets close to him. Even if he can pull the opponent from a distance, he will still lose after his MP is used up. If Ibarua abandons her companions, she may still be able to escape, but she will never do that. After just a short while, Ibarua ran out of MP, gave up resistance, and prepared to die with his companions. Cocytus put away his knife and did not deal a fatal blow to the men. Ibarua asked breathlessly, why don't you kill us? The Sorcerer King's battle requires witnesses. You are very suitable. From now on, you will be the witnesses of the king's victory. Just like Sig said, you are really arrogant. Although Ibarua said this, he felt relieved in his heart that his companions were able to survive. A question mark appeared on Cocytus's forehead. He opened his mouth to correct the other party's address, but gave up. Vampire, you should thank the Supreme Being for his mercy. Ibarua's pupils trembled, her race was exposed. At this time, the 2 supreme beings in the sky were fighting fiercely, and many surrendered people were also watching and exclaiming from time to time. Regardless of stance, this battle is truly a spectacle to behold. Ins continuously released magic, with various attributes released in succession, which was extremely gorgeous. Sig's whole body radiates golden light, with a ring of sacred attributes on his head, and lightning flashes when he swings his blade. Almost no one would doubt the authenticity of this battle. How could it be an act when it has turned out like this? If you can do it, then go ahead. In reality, Sig's HP was only reduced a little, and In's MP was not consumed much either. Facing their only companion, they couldn't really do anything. Sig glanced at the audience below and quietly sent a message to Ins, it's time for a big finale. Ins nodded, then suddenly spread his arms and laughed. You are very powerful. I will use my strongest move. Just what I want. A magic circle appeared around both of them at the same time. As a powerful magic caster, it is normal for Ins to use magic, but Sig is obviously a warrior, so can he also use large-scale magic? Summon the family. Following a loud dragon roar, a giant light golden dragon descended from the sky. It had a graceful and slender figure, glowing skin, and gemstones dotted all over its body. It exuded a sacred and inviolable aura. Ibarua cried out in surprise, Dragon. Ins also screamed in his heart, Sig-san, how much money did you recharge into the game?